Hello, it's Wednesday, January 14th in the year 2025. God bless you wherever you may be. Welcome to Darkness is Falling, video number 420 in this series exposing the Jesuit Vatican shadow empire as the true cause of all revolutions, genocide, war, and deception for the last 500 years, and the one and only candidate for the fourth iron Roman beast system described trampling and crushing the nations in the prophetic books of Daniel and Revelation. Thank you to all of you who took the time to comment on the last video. I wasn't surprised by the responses, both good and bad. Jesus states in Luke 6, verse 45, a good man out of the good treasure, or a good woman, out of the good treasure of their hearts bring forth that which is good. And an evil man or woman, out of the evil treasure of his or her heart, brings forth that which is evil. For of the abundance of the heart, his or her mouth speaks. This is so true and was amply demonstrated in the response to the last video. Listen carefully to how people speak, and you'll quickly identify good from evil. The last video brought the tares out into the open. In fact, it was a tares gone wild session. Nevertheless, people expose themselves for all to see by their rejection of sound teaching and factual answers. Please do not engage with these people. People answering constantly in the negative and constantly making accusations. They will destroy your faith and lead you away from sincere faith in Jesus Christ if you let them. I can't warn you enough about this. Now, I was greatly encouraged by those of you who spoke in defense of the truth. So thank you again, and thank you to all of you who support this ministry with prayer. That is greatly appreciated and very much needed. Now, please understand that in 2009, and I've mentioned this before numerous times in the last 50 videos or so. Please understand that in 2009, with the issuing of the Manhattan Declaration, the world moved into active, complete ecumenism. Whether you see this visibly with your own eye is irrelevant. The world moved into active and complete ecumenism. The name of religions or church organizations no longer matters today. Doesn't matter what you title yourself. Your organization is now a part of the world beast religion, because they've all signed up. All the leaders of these organizations, all the Protestant denominations have signed up to this Jesuit-inspired declaration. They've all vowed their allegiance to Rome, to the Pope. So like I said, the name of religions or church organizations no longer matters today. If you are still involved in a mainstream church organization, 501c3 church organization, I'm warning you again to get out. Get out. God is calling you out, telling you to separate yourself from it. Now, the whole world population during the COVID medical marking inquisition, except for a small group who saw what was happening and obeyed God, the whole world are now joined by the mark technology in their bodies and their allegiance to government and religious organizations. That's a fact. Testing and injecting is a spiritual act. It is a ritual initiation into the beast New World Order. Now, maybe some of you remember the statement by David Spangler, who was director of Planetary Initiative for the United Nations back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I believe. Now, this man was and is a major voice in the New Age religion. I posted this in a number of video messages many years ago. Time to repeat it again. Now, he stated clearly, and I quote, "No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he or she will take a Luciferian initiation." Unquote. The COVID technologies inserted into the body under order from the image of the beast UN world government is that Luciferian initiation he was talking about. Yes, it is. This man knew stuff, and the Jesuits used him to tell us way in advance of the COVID deception. Almost 20 years. They warned us that an initiation ritual, let me say that again. The Jesuits warned us that an initiation ritual was coming nearly 20 years before it happened. The final microneedle patch implant in the body will complete that Luciferian initiation for the Luciferian religion, which is humanism, the worship of man as God. Now, once again, to all those who have been ranting and railing about what the COVID mark of the beast is or isn't, let me tell you, it is a long-term injection program designed to take people to the final injection procedure. And it's been going on for 200 years. Now, you can agree with that, you can disagree with it, doesn't matter. It's a reality, it's a fact. History documents it. COVID took a serious turn. And where vaccinations became something completely different. And everyone was caught off guard by that fake pandemic and submitted to the world government. The vast majority of people have submitted and will continue to submit to the end. Okay, so that initiation ritual to enter the New World Order has basically come and gone except for the last installment, the microneedle patch technology. Everyone is in the system except for a very small group of true believers. That's just the way it is, people. You can look around you, you can see for yourself if your eyes are open that everybody is marching lockstep and following their politicians right to the edge of the cliff, and they'll walk straight over it. And nothing can stop it. This process is irreversible. 1 million protests will not stop what is taking place. Why? Because it is part of God's plan. Satan must be allowed to deceive the nations in order to sort out the wheat from the tares. Now, apparently there's a group of tares following this channel and harassing this ministry for whatever reason, I have no idea. they would be better off spending their time elsewhere. But that's how Satan works. That is how he does it. He harasses ministers of truth. And I am a minister of truth, and I have spoken nothing but the whole truth. Now, there's a few news items here that I'd like to go over. It'll take a little bit, but important to hear it and understand it and know basically what is going on. It never hurts to be updated. Now, first of all, I encourage all of you not to engage in the Jesuit pastime of railing and ranting against political or cultural or religious celebrities and their antics. Don't do it. It is a waste of time. You're just going to turn yourself into a fool, like all these people on the internet, all these social media channels that are raging and railing and ranting against politicians and entertainers and all manner of celebrity. What a waste of time. This is a fruitless activity that God's people just do not participate in. Now, the Jesuit MSM and alternative media promote this behavior incessantly. Individuals are just fronts or extensions of the real problem, which is Roman government. Railing and gnashing teeth at or whining and complaining about Jesuit puppets, controlled puppets, celebrity puppets of any kind is a waste of time. People who do this fall into the trap of aiding and abetting the Jesuit program of inciting a culture of complaint and protest and fomenting rage and violence in the masses, which is not what God has called us to do as agents of peace and reconciliation. So, first of all, masking is back in force in hospitals and clinics in Canada. Not everywhere. It's sporadic. That's how they do it. Everything is staggered. Everything is never uniform. It's staggered, but it's happening. I see that it's happening in the UK also. It's probably also happening in many parts of the world. You're just not hearing about it in the media until you see an airport or a hospital, or they do a news report from a busy street where you see people walking around with masks. Now, the yearly winter media propaganda is in full swing. The flu disappeared for 4 years, but now it's back. Yes, it is. Isn't that amazing? How flu disappears for 4 years, but suddenly it's back. Now, just remember that flu, RSV, and COVID are all the same thing now. COVID, flu, RSV are all the same thing now. It's one thing that they call long COVID, and it's created by repeated test and injection vaccine chemical poisoning. People aren't catching anything because there is nothing to catch. Plain and simple. You can't catch flu or RSV or COVID or anything else. A video titled Health Canada is silent as autism rates explode by over 1,500%. This article was posted on the Rebel News YouTube channel January 8 this year. It states, despite, and I quote, despite the alarming increase in neurodevelopmental conditions among children, Federal Health Agency have offered few answers and little urgency, even as U.S. counterparts take action, unquote. Now, this should not be a surprise to anyone who understands what is going on with vaccines. No admission of vaccine damage means no guilt. It's very simple. All neurodegenerative disorders are caused by vaccine poisoning. There are 100, maybe hundreds, of different kinds of polio, and each one has a different name, giving it some kind of scientific credibility, like Parkinson's disease. That's a neurodegenerative disease. That's polio. Multiple sclerosis is another one. That is polio. It's all polio, people. Polio is neurodegenerative disease of any kind. No matter what they want to call it, it's just nerve damage, nerve and brain damage caused by chemical poisoning. That's what has been building and building for more than 100 years now. Okay, so please be aware of that autism is caused by vaccines. It's plain and simple. There's no other underlying cause except chemical poisoning. Now, how many plane crashes have there been in 2025? Coming back to the issue of planes and air travel. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, posted December 10th, 2025, there have been 1,306 aviation accidents so far in 2025. And I believe there was more actual air incidents after December 10th last year. So it's more than 1,306 aviation accidents in 2025. Staggering number. Of these, 249 were considered fatal accidents, and 1,057 were considered non-fatal. Now, this can only get worse as the number of mandatory vaccines for pilots increases, and the number of ATC staff at airports remains deficient or on the decline. So air travel, like I've been saying for a long time now, is dangerous. The fact that people still climb on airplanes willingly shows that they have no idea of what is going on, and they have no idea that all pilots are compromised, and that at some point there will be an incident and they may lose their lives. It doesn't seem to be deterring people from flying, but at some point air travel is going to decrease, slow down, and possibly, for the most part, stop. It's coming. Now, whether it happens this year or next year or the year after makes no difference. I'm here in advance warning you, do not get on airplanes because you have no idea what is going to happen to the person driving it. And if they become compromised, lapse consciousness, have a heart attack, which is what the shots do, you will go down with that plane. It's that simple. Now, what about this farce of a war in Ukraine? This has dragged on for 4 years now or more. It was all planned. There is no plan to stop it, and it could drag on for a lot longer. The war creates terrible instability and huge profits for all involved. So there's no reason for them to want to stop this war. Why stop the war when they're making tremendous profits from it? In a CNN article on Ukrainian men escaping to other countries, we read this from one man who escaped into Romania. They're all trying to get out and escape being drafted into the military and shot to pieces for no reason. Now, this is what this one man said. This is what one article said, and I quote, "For Pinkasov, who worked as a taxi driver in Kiev, life back home became what he described as unbearable, even as U.S. President Donald Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and European leaders advance competing visions for ending the war." He said nobody wants peace, not Putin, not Zelensky, not Trump. And he said this from a Romanian border town of Sighetu, Marmiete. the air thick with smoke from wood stoves battling against the cold. Unquote. That's the end of that short article. So, estimates of the number of dead and missing in this conflict, this farcical, contrived conflict, both military and civilian, is upward of 1.2 million already, but we will never know exactly. Rome creates conflict and then uses the instability for its own advantage. And war is what the Jesuits are all about. They love war. They love war of every kind. They worship the god of war, who is Satan, Lucifer. Now, AI programs are flooding the internet. They are embedded into everything now. Many voices on social media are talking and complaining about this. Now, this was always the plan from the very beginning of the creation of the internet. To even think that the internet was invented for the benefit of mankind and for the sake of freedom of speech and for the advancement of the human race is incredibly naive when you understand who your enemy is. Why would the devil want people to be free, advancing, progressive, serving God? Why? No. It's never going to happen according to the scripture. On January the 7th, 2026, this year, the phys.org website posted an article titled, CRISPR discovery could lead to single diagnostic test for COVID, flu, and RSV. Now, the article states, and I quote, "We're very focused on the basic research of understanding the structure and function of the CRISPR systems we study and helping researchers around the world work through bottlenecks that enable them to pursue therapeutic applications," says Jackson R. Gorth Hansen, associate professor in Utah State University's Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry. Unquote. Now, the article goes on to state, and I quote again, Cas12a3 can stop protein production in its tracks by chopping off a specific region of tRNA called the tail, which contains the amino acid. He says, "This is a very powerful and precise way to prevent a pathogen, including a virus, from replicating in a cell without damaging the cell's DNA." Jackson says Cas12a3's ability to cleave tRNA tails is a newly discovered CRISPR immune response. "We think," he said, "being able to stop an invading pathogen while leaving DNA unchanged could be a therapeutic breakthrough. As we study these systems, we're also discovering the enormous functional diversity in these bacterial defense mechanisms." Unquote. Well, as you can see, the scientific nonsense over testing for viruses, creating tests, continues to morph into something new, which will be used to deceive the masses yet once again. The deception just piles on deception on deception on deception. We're sinking deeper and deeper. We're already very deep in layers of deception, which cannot be unraveled, people, cannot be rolled back. Now, this whole thing about CRISPR and gene therapy, it's all nonsense. That is my opinion, because I cannot find any factual proof for DNA or anything to do with DNA or tRNA or mRNA. Cannot find any proof that this exists. And I believe it is a total deception. It's a science fiction deception. And you can believe it if you want, but you do so, like many things, at your own peril. DNA is not real. It's been invented to lead people down the science garden path. You can believe that, like I say, if you want. But I do not believe any of these stories after investigating this for some time. So, the next point that we should be aware of is Novo Nordisk, the makers of Ozempic. I'm sure you've heard of Ozempic by now. The makers of Ozempic, the miracle weight loss drug, is being sued in a $2 billion class action lawsuit. Victims are claiming the weight loss injection causes optic nerve damage, gastroparesis, thyroid cancer, permanent blindness, gastrointestinal issues, gallbladder disease, gallstones, kidney damage, pancreatitis, depression, and small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, S-I-B-O, among other conditions. Why am I not surprised to hear this? It was only a matter of time before this happened. There are no shortcuts with weight loss. It is very simple. If it took 5 years to put the weight on, then it just might take 5 years to get it off with very disciplined exercise, correct eating, and a balanced lifestyle. The lesson to be learned: live simple and never trust pharmaceutical quick fix injection promises. Every time people inject themselves with something goes wrong. And it's not always immediate. It's down the track a bit when it's too late. The same with the COVID injections. It's now too late for all these people. There's nothing to rectify what the damage that has been done in billions of bodies. And this cannot end well, like I have said in many, many video messages. Now, another article titled "Trump's Don Roe Doctrine Sets U.S. on Great Power Collision Course," posted January the 8th, 2025 on the Axios.com website. And it states this, and I quote, "President Trump is moving to eject America's adversaries from the Western Hemisphere, seizing on the momentum of an extraordinary show of force in Venezuela. Why it matters. With allies and adversaries still reeling from the U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro, Trump is seeking to cement a new world order through strict enforcement of his Don Roe Doctrine." Now, the Don Roe Doctrine is simply a play on the Monroe Doctrine. And some of you might know about the Monroe Doctrine that was formulated a long time ago and which has no part to play in what is happening today. It's all nonsense. And nothing could be further from the truth in what is said in this article. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's nobody reeling from the U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro. These people are all working together, all world governments. Now the show that they put on, the act that they put on for the media is exactly just that. It's an act. These people are working together to pull these things off. If you haven't figured that out by now, that these are all psyops to deceive the peoples of the world, then I don't know what to say, because I've been talking about this for a long time. 10 years to be exact. So nothing could be further from the truth of what this article claims. There are no great powers in conflict today. Did Russia do anything about anything that Trump has done? No. Did China? No. Nothing. They're not reeling. They know what's going on. They're part of the plan. Now, it may appear that there is conflict, but and that the U.S. is against Russia and China, but it's a deception. As you can see, there has been no action taken against the USA in any way. They're all working together, people. Now, in another BBC article titled, Trump's Grand Plan to Reshape the World Order Leaves Europe with a Difficult Choice to Make, was posted January the 9th, 2026, and we read this, and I quote, America led the creation of NATO, the World Bank, the IMF, and the United Nations. No, that's incorrect. America did not lead that. The Jesuits led that initiative for NATO, to create the World Bank, to create the IMF and the United Nations. The World Bank is a Vatican bank. So is the IMF. The United Nations is the image of the beast, Vatican world government. It's nothing to do with America, even though America is involved. Rome, the beast, created all these institutions. Now, the article goes on to say that America bound itself into what became known as the rules-based international order. No, it didn't. They're all in this together. It didn't bind itself into a rules-based international order. If there is an international rules-based international order, it's controlled totally by the United Nations world government. It says there, in which nation states committed to a series of mutual obligations and shared burdens designed to defend the democratic world against hostile authoritarian powers. What hostile authoritarian powers? There are none. And do you see the United Nations doing anything about Trump? Well, why would they? They have told him to do what he's doing. They're all working together, people. So there's no hostile authoritarian powers in the world today because they're all in league with each other. Why? Where are these hostile authoritarian powers? This is fictional writing, people. Whoever wrote this is writing fiction. It says, the article goes on to say, now the new U.S. National Security Strategy, or NSS, published in December, signals that for the White House, that shared endeavor has ended. The United States is breaking away and becoming sovereign and doing its own thing. No. That's not what's happening here. And it says that much of what the world has taken for granted about America's role is over. What was taken for granted about America's role? You see, if you know the truth and you know who your enemy is, and you know that the United Nations is controlling everything, you know that America is not doing anything on its own. It's just made to appear that way in the Jesuit MSM propaganda. So again, you see what happened to the United Nations world government in all this Trump fiasco. It just fades into the background. You don't hear a thing. Well, it's because it doesn't want to be seen out in the front leading. It leads from behind, pushing its actors onto the stage and controlling them from behind, like a stage director. And this is how the Jesuits do it. They just make things appear and disappear as they desire. It's all about illusion and smoke and mirrors and sorcery, deceiving the nations who have no idea who really controls the world, who controls all systems, who controls the whole show. Now remember, the No Kings idiocracy back in 2025? No Kings. You remember that? That is a Jesuit humanist protest movement. Please understand this. The No Kings protests all across the USA started in June 2025, around there. Check their website at nokings.org to see what's next. And guess what? Nothing. There's nothing scheduled until further notice, I guess. The No Kings program is on hold. And what happened? What happened to it? Did kings suddenly stop ruling? Not the last time I checked. Nothing ever came of all that activity last year, people. Nothing. It's the same with the Proud Boys, Anonymous, Q, Me Too, Antifa, MAGA, and all the other mysterious grassroots political movements over the last 20 years protesting against U.S. and world governance. And what has been achieved from all these protests, all these movements? Nothing. Nothing. Nothing has changed. Remember the truck convoy in Canada, in Europe, in the U.S., Australia? Remember? Remember that truck convoy? What changed? What did it change? Nothing. Nothing at all. It's the same in Europe. All the farmers' protests and anti-government protests have all gone nowhere. Nothing has changed. According to the CarnegieEndowment.org website and their global protest tracker, there have been 126 significant protests in 67 countries over the last 12 months, and there are 33 protests ongoing. 33. Now, you can believe those figures if you want. Nevertheless, this demonstrates that people are protesting all over the place with zero change recorded. Has anything changed with world government? Nothing. Has any institution been abolished? Anything else? Anything happened? Changing world law? Anything? Nothing. I watched this closely. Nothing has changed. Protests have done nothing. They've just served to get the people incited to anger and violence, and it all plays into the Jesuits' hands because they can control angry people very easily. So protesting does nothing. 126 significant protests in 67 countries. Did you know that? Have you heard about that in the media, on TV, anywhere? 126 significant protests in 67 countries over the last 12 months. I did not know that. I knew about a few of them. It's only one or two here and there that they put into the media. People have no idea that people are up in arms all over the place and protesting. It's going nowhere. It's changing nothing. So, Roman power is even more firmly entrenched than ever, everywhere. And like I said, the protests are changing nothing. Now, isn't that a bit strange? Well, it's not strange if you understand God's word. Please go there and check out all these protests. Go to CarnegieEndowment.org website and check it out for yourself. And because they are on a list where every country is listed alphabetically. You can check out all the humanist protests, people complaining about how they don't like this Roman boot on their neck anymore. Too late. Too late for everyone. Now, please remember that Trump does not rule the world. The U.S. doesn't rule the world. Trump is not out of control. He or she or whatever it is following a very well thought out Jesuit plan, making it look as if America is calling the shots everywhere. Now, I have done videos with pictures showing Donald Trump standing with a handful of Jesuit handlers, official photographs. I've shown everybody that Donald Trump is Jesuit trained, educated, promoted, controlled. And that's all you need to know about what's going on. He is being told what to do. He's not doing this of his own volition. So, America is not calling the shots, and nothing could be further from the truth. World politics is Roman Catholic politics, and I'm going to show you that in a new slide presentation. The USA is just the Jesuit Vatican enforcer. Remember the Enforcer? The 1976 Clint Eastwood movie? Eastwood's character is a representation of the Jesuit order. Now, this movie was reissued again in 2022, a few years ago, with Antonio Banderas this time. A real Jesuit puppet. So, in the first movie, the enforcer is a policeman, and in the second movie, the enforcer becomes a gangster. Jesuit comedy, mockery of the nations, of the peoples who have no idea what these movies are all about. The Jesuits, once again, like I said, mocking everybody with their bad cops and good robbers dualism. Bad cops and good robbers. There you go. Talk about inverting truth. Now, the USA, meaning U.S. military forces and intelligence agencies run by the Jesuits, are together Rome's world enforcer. And they are now playing bad cops. So, what is happening? It is as I say in virtually every video message. We are in the final stage of the move to oneness. Total world unity under the beast. All pretension to sovereignty must be destroyed, even while they talk about sovereign nations. But all pretension to actual sovereignty must be destroyed in this move to oneness. Everything must become one. This is what Trump is doing. He is in the process of incorporating nation states into the one. He is the new Jesuit hammer, smashing away at the old new order. Humanists totally misunderstand what he is doing because their worldview is totally wrong. It's totally unbiblical. Now, a National Post article posted January the 7th, 2025 is titled, Trump pulls U.S. out of 66 international organizations, including 31 UN bodies. The days of billions of dollars in taxpayer money flowing to foreign interests at the expense of our people are over, said Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Well, that's a simple lie. It's a total lie. The article states, and I quote, Donald Trump has ordered the U.S. government to pull out of 66 international organizations that the White House said no longer serve American interests. Oh, I see. America, see that this is how they do it. They make America look like it's just calling the shots. It's not. What is happening is they are rearranging the world order. Some things are going to go. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, these organizations that are got to go apparently include 31 United Nations entities, as well as 35 non-UN organizations that operate contrary to U.S. national interests, security, economic prosperity, or sovereignty, according to a White House fact sheet issued Wednesday. Trump directed U.S. agencies to cease participating and funding the entities in a presidential memo. Is Trump doing this? No. The United Nations has told Trump to do this. You see, this is how they hide their actions. They make it look like Trump is doing all this. No. The United Nations is rearranging things. That's the world government. And it is telling Trump to do this. Can you see what is happening? The world card deck is being reshuffled. It appears as if the Jesuits may be done with the UN image of the beast government. It's possible. Because if there's one world and there's no national governments anymore, then maybe the UN government ceases to be the UN and just becomes the beast government. I don't know how that works. It remains to be seen. But it's possible that they are done with the UN as it has been for the last 80 years. Very possible. To be watched as we go forward to see what happens. The UN government may have served its purpose of humanist unity to fool the people, but has now reached its use-by date and may become something else. I don't know, but the Bible doesn't give us a lot of detail about the image. It just says that it has the power to mark people and to kill those who refuse. Now, what that image is called, the name of the image, world government, may change from UN to something else. And like I said, we need to just wait and see. So the number of regional unions of nations within the United Nations UN system is 5 official regional groups used for electoral and representational purposes. Beyond the UN structure, numerous other independent regional organizations exist worldwide, formed for various political, economic, or security purposes. For example, ASEAN, ASEAN, or the Organization of American States, or OAS, or the Arab League, or AL. These organizations may no longer be needed, as well as the unions, like the African Union, the European Union, the Asian Union. All these unions may no longer be necessary as things begin to merge and change into this new age oneness under the beast. So this is what I'm watching. This is what you should be watching too as this develops. Now, Trump the Destroyer is being told to totally upend the old New World Order as it has been for the last 80 years. That's what he's doing. Please understand that Trump is not doing this by himself. I keep repeating myself because people seem to think that he has a lot of power. No, he doesn't. He is a figurehead. Presidents stopped being presidents a long time ago. Trump is not doing anything by himself. He is following orders. He's been told to do this by the Jesuit High Command. Now, I do not know all the details, but I can see what the beast is doing because the Bible tells me very roughly what will happen. Now Trump is threatening Cuba and Iran, bombing Syria, and engaging in pressure tactics with many foreign leaders, threatening to disassemble NATO, all this stuff. Now, this may happen, but Trump's not doing it. It's the beast that is rearranging the world order. And Trump is just the puppet instrument to do it. And deceiving everybody while he does it. Now remember Jesus' words in John chapter 17, verse 21. Very important. The scripture says that they all may be one, as you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you have sent me. That was and is the plan for the body of Christ. Only the called out body of Christ. Well, Satan is inverting that scripture. The Roman Catholic cult has pulled everyone into a false, one world, Luciferian, ecumenic oneness. That scripture has been inverted. The Catholic Church quotes it all the time. trying to legitimize themselves as being the legitimate Church of God in the world. But what we see happening worldwide is the formation of this inverted oneness that many people now believe, the majority. The beast doesn't want to rule through Roman proxy governments like the UN anymore. So how this new political formation occurs, I'm not sure. But things are changing, and Trump is at the forefront of it. And the Jesuits stand right behind him doing this. Now, the beast wants to rule and reign and be worshipped directly as a king by all. So we are moving quickly toward a beast that all will recognize and worship as the answer to all the world's problems. We're not too far away from that. And everybody will accept this. They will accept the beast as the answer to all the world's problems. He is the false peace bringer, the son of perdition. Now, I believe that ultimately and soon there will be no mention of countries as we have known it, just regions or provinces of the one world region. There will be no country of France, for example. That's an example I'm using. There will be no country called France, just the Roman province of France in Eurasia. Remember that France as we know it today did not exist until 1958, just 67 years ago. That's right. Go and check it. France as we know it today as a nation did not exist politically as it is until 1958, only 67 years ago. Germany as we know it today did not exist until 1949, just 76 years ago. There were only 20 countries 200 years ago. I've mentioned this in previous videos. 200 years ago, there were only 20 countries. Today, there are more than 200, I believe. It keeps changing, but somewhere between 95 and 200 and possibly more. The Jesuits created all these countries in order then to later get rid of them. The Jesuits are regressing the world back to a world reality without any concept of country, nation, states, as it existed 500 years ago. 500 years ago, there were no countries. And this is the plan. Trump under orders is regressing the world backwards into one world empire with regions or provinces ruled by the beast. I have been saying this in so many video messages, but most people today simply can't even imagine the idea of the end of countries or no countries. It is very difficult to imagine. Now, what should we expect from 2026? Well, more of the same. That's what. Everything Trump does for the papal beast takes us closer to the one world transhumanist hell on earth. And that is his task, to flip the many back into the one. Now notice how Russia and China, like I said before, have taken a back seat while Trump takes center stage, and yet they are all members of the UN Image of the Beast Security Council. Isn't that amazing? How they're all members of the UN Security Council, and yet they're all made to look like they're against each other and fighting with each other. Isn't that amazing? That's Jesuit inversion of truth and reality. People don't even see this. They can't see it. They're blind to see this amazing contradiction, which in fact is not a contradiction. So why is no one objecting to what Trump is doing? Well, it's because, like I said before, they are all in agreement with the same United Nations Beast Government World Plan. Now, meanwhile, the digital communication infrastructure is already in place, waiting for the microneedle patch body implant to roll out. The Mark of the Beast, the final installment of the Mark of the Beast. Digital money is steadily replacing cash and card money worldwide. The geopolitical borders created by the Jesuits over the last 200 years are slowly shifting or dissolving, even while people are blind to it. The geopolitical reality we have all been living in is changing in front of our eyes, day by day. Everything is merging faster and faster into oneness. I hope that you have eyes to see this world transformation taking place. If you do, then you will never be deceived by what you see or hear from the MSM Ministry of Propaganda or the Alternative Media Ministry of Propaganda, because both of them are basically controlled by the Jesuits. I just get to say what I'm saying because they allow me to do this, because I'm opposition, see? The Jesuits always need to have an opposition. So, please think about all those points and understand what is going on in the world today. It's momentous. It's never been seen in world history. It's on a world scale, and it's happening very, very rapidly. Now, in this video message, I am returning to the central topic in the Darkness is Falling video series of how the Roman Catholic Empire rules the world today. I will use a book published in 1935 titled Rome Stoops to Conquer, written by a Jesuit by the name of Boyd Barrett 90 years ago, to establish this truth. So I'm going to use this book as a starting point. Barrett wrote 12 books during his life which promote and glory in the triumph of the Roman Catholic religion in its conquest of the peoples of the United States of America. Now, if you've never heard of E. Boyd Barrett, you have now. And I encourage you to go and read his books. He will tell you straight out that the Roman Catholic Church rules the United States and has done virtually from the beginning of the foundation of the United States as a nation. Now, like I said, he wrote these 12 books, maybe more. I don't know. I could only find 12 listed. Boyd promoted Jesuit psychology. He was a psychologist. And the power of the mind in many of his books. His books are working in sync with the rise of radio and then TV technology and the cult of the Psycho Analyst in the United States and Europe. So this is the atmosphere that was happening in the 20s and 30s. Psychology was huge. It was on the rise. It was going to solve all of man's problems. Mind sciences, right? Jesuits love the mind sciences because they know that if they can control your mind and what you think, what you believe, they've got you. And basically they do. They have everybody today in their pocket. So it'll become clear to the listener that the United States was already a political vassal of Rome more than 150 years ago. I will try to illustrate that Rome first had to conquer the USA from within on all fronts before it could use the USA to conquer the world without, internationally, beyond U.S. borders. It has been a slow, steady operation throughout the 20th century. But we're very close to the end of this. Now today, Donald Trump could not do what he or she is doing unless the USA was already rotten to the core and the people totally mind controlled by TV. TV. is a mind control device. When I say rotten to the core, what I mean is morally, spiritually, culturally, politically, everything is rotten to the core. And once again, I am focusing on America because it is America as an entity that has been and is being used to enforce Rome's rule over the nations in these last days. When I say the USA, I am including Canada, which is the 6th Jesuit province in North America, and already is secretly the 51st U.S. state. Yes, it is. Donald Trump says it because it is already a reality. It's predictive programming, but it's also true. Now, both the U.S. and Canadian government administrations work together to carry out the Jesuit plan of seducing and destroying the populations. Yes, Mark Carney works closely with Trump. No, they are not in disagreement about anything. No, they are not fighting with each other or opposing each other. They are working together to bring the whole system down. So do not be fooled by the acting in the MSM. Don't be fooled by all these stories. So both the U.S. and Canadian government administrations work closely together to carry out the Jesuit plan of seducing and destroying the population. What about Russia and China? Yes, they have been and are being used, but in a more passive role, and they are playing the yin to America's yang, so to speak. Remember that the Jesuits are occultists, Satanists. So they've got Russia and China playing the yin to America's yang, the yin-yang. And that's what's going on. Russia and China are playing the evil foil or antagonist against which America is portrayed as the good hero protagonist. It's all a fiction, people. It's theater, political theater. And this is the open expression of Gnostic dualisms that the Jesuits operate by. Now, Rome has stooped to conquer an America and is still doing so. The process is almost complete. I have prepared another slide presentation, like I mentioned before, to illustrate that Rome has indeed conquered the USA and how it happened. People had been warning about this for a long time, but of course the warning fell on deaf ears and then faded even more with each successive generation. And how did that happen? Well, because the Roman Catholic Church took control of the U.S. government, U.S. money, U.S. intelligence, U.S. military, everything, U.S. business. It took control of everything. It's rotten to the core, people, and there's no remedy for it. Let's have a look at that slide presentation now. In slide number 1, we can read the title of this slide presentation, Rome Stoops to Conquer, and conquering within in order to conquer without. I will provide a few quotes from the Jesuit written publication Rome Stoops to Conquer, showing that the conquest and destruction of America was part of the Jesuit Vatican plan long before the USA even became a nation. Once we settle in our minds that the USA was created to be destroyed, and that before this happened, America itself would be used to destroy the nations, we are watching this process happen before our eyes. Rome first had to conquer America from within before it could weaponize America and use it to conquer the nations without. And we have been watching this all through the 20th century. The rise of the American empire. People have talked and waxed long and lyrical about the American empire. But basically, America was a tool in the Vatican's hands to shape and control world events all through the 20th century, whether through war or revolution, genocide, through politics, militarily. It didn't matter. America was at the forefront, and this deceived a lot of people into believing that America controlled the show when it does not. The question is always, how did this all happen? Now, I've made a lot of videos explaining this and looking at different aspects of it over the last 7 years. And I'm doing it again in this video. But there's always new information that you can tie in to how this all works and how did the Jesuits do it, which is very important to know and to understand. And like the scripture says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So it is knowledge that gives understanding about how this all occurred. And it's all useful to help us grow in faith and understanding that even though Satan and his hierarchy have conquered the world, that it all belongs to God and that ultimately their plans will fail. This produces faith in me, and I hope it does in you also. So the question is always, how did this all happen? In this presentation, I'm going to provide a brief overview of how the Jesuits, through Freemasonry, through all the secret societies, created the American Navy and other U.S. military and intelligence agencies. These Roman Catholic agencies have been actively waging war internationally against other nations and also at home against the American people for nearly 200 years. American culture is the prime focus, as this industry was created by Freemasons of all flavors during the 19th century. Entertainment is what Satan has used to deceive the American people and the peoples of the world. All kinds of entertainment so that the people could be endlessly amused and kept from the truth of God's word and ultimately amused to death. This campaign of conquest started in 1634 with the arrival in what is now Maryland of 200 Roman Catholic settlers from Britain, including a handful of Jesuit priests. This is where all the trouble begins. 1634, people. It's a long story. Now, please watch my video number 360 titled Maryland, which gives many details about how this history all began. The first Jesuit priests arrived also in Baja California on the peninsula in 1684, with Father Juan Maria de Salvatierra establishing the first permanent mission called Nuestra Senora de Loreto on October the 25th, 1697, marking the start of the Jesuit mission era in the Californias. While earlier failed attempts occurred in 1684, 1685, 1697 is the key date for permanent Jesuit presence, with their work extending north before the Franciscans took over Alta California in 1769. So you can see the Jesuit pincer strategy invasion by priests in action on both the east and west coasts of America within 50 years. Remember that the Jesuits are a military. So they are invading the east and west coasts of America a long time ago, and they did it within 50 years. The Jesuits were all over the USA before the American Revolution in 1775, establishing Roman Catholic missions, schools, and Roman Catholic temples in every territory. Now, the illustration in the slide is from Puck magazine in 1894 and is titled The American Pope. This is a brilliant cartoon. This is what people saw 130 years ago. Did they understand the threat? Yes, they did. Why was nothing done 130 years ago? Well, it's the same reason that nothing can be done now. The American government and all its institutions, all its agencies, is 100% Jesuit controlled. And they are together working against the American people. The USA as we know it is doomed, but then so is every other nation. We are watching Alice Bailey's externalization of the ruling hierarchy before our very eyes. Rome is gradually pulling the curtain away from the true reality of this world and revealing itself as that ruling hierarchy. Now, at the bottom of the slide, you can see my website address, darknessisfalling.com. Please use this online facility while it lasts. It won't always be there. You can read my blogs there and watch or download all 431 videos in this now extensive Darkness is Falling series. You can also find a URL and PDF page where you can download and read many hard-to-find documents and books about the Jesuit order and the Roman Catholic cult and its worldwide machinations. There are more than 80 pages of information. I can't remember exactly how many pages now. More than 80 pages of information, videos, writing, documents that will help you to understand the Jesuit Vatican enemy and what the Bible says about it. So please use those facilities while they're available, while they remain. If you look at that cartoon, that drawing in the slide, you can see the Pope sitting on top of his American headquarters, which is the Capitol Dome in Washington, and surveying the United States as a whole from his high vantage point, holding his shepherd's crook. And you can see he's casting a sinister shadow like the boogeyman over the United States. Very, very, very well done picture, which tells us the truth from so long ago. In slide number 2, we can see a brief explanation of the origin of the phrase "stoop to conquer." Now, reading in the slide, what does it mean, Rome stoops to conquer? This is an expression that was more familiar in culture before the turn of the 20th century and the advent of movie-making technology. The source of She Stoops to Conquer is a play by Oliver Goldsmith, which originated in 1773 in London at Covent Garden Theatre, becoming a famous comedy farce based on mistaken identity, where a wealthy home is disguised as an inn, leading to comedic chaos as suitors woo daughters under false pretenses. Its full title, The Mistakes of a Knight, highlights the central premise of confusion and social role reversal. This play originates from Jesuit college theater, which became hugely popular in Europe through the 17th and 18th centuries. Note the promotion of social confusion and social role reversal as comedy. There is nothing new under the sun. Think about the movie Some Like It Hot and others filmed during the 50s, and you'll see the Jesuit hand behind cultural productions over the centuries. Oliver Goldsmith was Jesuit trained at Trinity College in Dublin and is buried in the Crown Temple Church in London, the home of the Templar Knights. He was a high Freemason and died Sir Oliver Goldsmith. And that's all you and I need to know about who he was and who he was serving. It is clear that Goldsmith is a Jesuit hero and is being eulogized in Edward Boyd Barrett's book of the same name, which we will now take a look at. In slide number 3, we can see the opening pages on the left of the original publication of Rome Stoops to Conquer from 1935, with a write-up on Edward John Boyd Barrett, which he would have written himself, congratulating himself on his cleverness and success. Note the picture of Boyd Barrett doing the Masonic thinking man pose. Boyd Barrett borrowed the title from Goldsmith's play, and how appropriate for a Jesuit writer. So she stoops to conquer became Rome stoops to conquer. And we know that she is Rome because Rome is a she. It's a church. So it's just a play on words. Now on the right is a cover from a more recent publication of Rome Stoops to Conquer, showing clearly the papal hand holding the two keys to both spiritual and temporal or political authority over the world, and pointing to the satanic earth ball. There can be no mistake about the meaning of the picture. It's all there in plain sight. The goal is world conquest by Rome. Now the introduction in the 1935 publication shown in the slide there, the introduction to the book, reads like this, and I quote, Dr. E. Boyd Barrett comes of an old Dublin family of lawyers and soldiers. He went as a boy to the famous Jesuit college of Clongowes Wood, where among his companions were James Joyce, Francis Hackett, and Oliver St. John Gogarty, the poet. At 19, he entered the Jesuit order, where he spent 20 years. During this time, he studied in universities in Dublin, Louvain, and London, taking his MA and PhD degrees. He wrote articles and books on psychology and gradually developed views that were too advanced for the Jesuit order. His last year as a Jesuit was spent in Georgetown University, where he taught psychology. Leaving the order, he practiced psychoanalysis in New York City and published the well-known works, The Jesuit Enigma and While Peter Sleeps. He also lectured and contributed to the American Mercury, the Forum, and other magazines. During the Sinn Féin movement, he enjoyed the friendship of Arthur Griffith and Michael Collins, and as far as a Jesuit could, and more than a Jesuit should, he abetted the Irish Revolution. His memories include happy spells on the Aran Isles, where he learned Gaelic, and interesting visits to Dutch and German universities. Dr. Boyd Barrett loves his dogs and his books. He still believes fervently in the inherent beauty of true Catholicism and deplores that the passion of modern life seems to be driving it from the earth. Unquote. This is what Boyd Barrett wrote about himself. Talk about self-ingratiation. Now, Boyd Barrett came from a very wealthy family. He never left the Jesuits as stated. That is a lie. He was a Jesuit all his life. Leaving the Jesuits is a Vatican cover story for his new assignment, writing books, promoting the Roman Catholic cult, and practicing as a psychoanalytic expert. And this is how the Jesuits operate, people. They can be anything they want to be in order to achieve their goals. Now, this book was published in 1935. Did people know about it? Yes, they did. Was it a widespread publication? Probably not. But it tells us all we need to know about the United States and what had already occurred by 1935. In slide number 4, we can see details about Boyd Barrett from the JesuitArchives.org website. Born in 1883, which is 9/11, numerically it's 9/11, and he died in 1966, which is numerically a 666 year. And what a coincidence. This man committed great evil in his lifetime and ended his own life at the age of 83, which is also an 11. 8 plus 3 equals 11. So the occult numbers were and are perfectly aligned for this agent of Rome. And yes, they choose the date that they want to either suicide or be killed on, because they believe in the numbers more than what you and I can imagine. Everything is done by the numbers. So looking at the slide, you can see details there from the Jesuit website, straight from the Jesuit website, about Edward J. Boyd Barrett. And if you scroll down that page, you'll get a lot of more information about him. In slide number 5, we can read a few passages from page 1 and 2 of Rome Stoops to Conquer, which are very revealing. And listen to the proud boasting. So reading in the slide, it states, from an insignificant group of 25,000 adherents shepherded by 30 poor priests in 1789, the Catholic Church of America has grown to be a congregation of 20 million, led by 30,000 priests. From being propertyless, she has become a rich institution whose wealth exceeds $2 billion. From being a despised and scattered flock, she has become the most perfectly organized body in the world, enjoying immense influence and power. Bearing in mind her material and spiritual autonomy, her individualism, her close-knit interests and definite aims, her sharp separateness from all other institutions, one must regard her as a unique entity in the nation, an entity whose swift and ceaseless growth indicates a great destiny. The American people watch with concern and suspicion the development of the Catholic Church in this country. They strove to thwart her growth with contempt and occasional blows. They had little sympathy for her. Wrote Cardinal Gibbons in 1876, upon the Church's fair and heavenly brow her enemies put a hideous mask, and in that guise exhibited her to the insults and mockery of the public. 50 years later, the same kind of injustice was complained of by Archbishop McNicholas, who said the Catholic Church has been held up to men as an object to be hated and feared. She has been described as Antichrist, the epitome of evil. She has been scorned as an alien, incapable of assimilating American ideals. She is said to await only the opportunity to effect the destruction of American institutions. But neither animosity nor injury succeeded in stemming the tide of Catholicism. The battle was lost. Irony, contempt, and blows failed of their purpose. The mustard seed has grown into a mighty tree. Today, the American people are silent about the Catholic Church. Silent and apprehensive. Written in 1935 in the middle of the Great Depression. This is from pages 1 and 2 of Rome Stoops to Conquer. It's very clear that this man understands that the Roman Catholic Church rules America. He's basically saying it, and we'll see in the next slide, in slide number 6, we can see a few more quotes taken from pages 94 to 96 of Rome Stoops to Conquer, where you can listen to more proud boasting. Now, reading in the slide again, and I quote, "The defeat of Alfred E. Smith in the presidential election of 1928 served as a rude awakening to Catholics." 1928, just before the start of the Great Depression. The outburst of anti-Catholic sentiment at the time demonstrated clearly that the American mind was out of tune with Catholicism. Then he says, the effort to inject the Catholic viewpoint into American consciousness has continued to the present day. Catholics have been clever and energetic in this propaganda, though how far they have succeeded in their purpose is a matter of question. Then he says again, not only have Catholics succeeded in putting their case boldly and frequently before the public, but they have set up virtually impassable barriers against criticism. The hidden influence of the Church is used effectively in preventing the presentation of the opposing case. Then he says again, the mainstream of Catholic propaganda is the teaching that only Catholic thought and Catholic morals can save America. It keeps hammering on the topic that Catholicism is good for America. Then he says, these ideas were forcibly promulgated by one of the Supreme Knights of Columbus, Mr. William Larkin, in a nationwide broadcast, March 17th, 1935, titled, "We Were Here All the Time, Say the Catholics." We were here in pre-colonial days in the persons of Jesuit missionaries. We were here in the persons of Lord Baltimore and his men in colonial days, and stood out for a religious liberty. In the War of Independence, in the person of Captain John Barry, we founded the American Navy, and in the person of Charles Carroll, we signed the Declaration. Our theologian, Cardinal Bellarmine, another Jesuit, supplied Jefferson with his best ideas on democracy for the writing of the Constitution. We helped to build and create the country by our brains and thews. Thews simply means muscles. Brain and brawn. What other church made larger contributions than we did? Are we not the most American of all religions? Taken from pages 94 to 96. 1935, people. Please remember what God says about the Roman Catholic cult in Revelation 18:7. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she says in her heart, I sit as queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. This is the same wicked organization that Barrett boasts proudly about. Now, please note that the Roman Catholics took control of America right from the beginning with the construction of the American Navy by Roman Catholic Captain John Barry, and the creation of the founding political documents by Jesuit brothers John and Charles Carroll, Jesuit Cardinal Bellarmine, and High Freemasons Jefferson, Franklin, Washington, and Madison. Later, Roman Catholics created the FBI, the OSS, and the CIA, the NSA. Politics, defense, and intelligence were co-opted by the Jesuits very early in the 19th century, and Barrett proudly boasts about it here openly. There is no argument about who controlled America from the beginning, virtually from the beginning. There was opposition for a while, but the Roman Catholics were able to overcome all that opposition by taking control of all of America's institutions, basically silencing any dissenting voices, and they still are today. In slide number 7, we can see a book titled To Sanctify the World, The Vital Legacy of Vatican II, published in 2022 and written, I believe, by a secret Jesuit named George Weigel. I can't prove this, but if you examine this man's credentials, then you'll see the Jesuit hand behind his life and operations. Now, reading in the slide, this man says, or this may be a summary to the book, and I quote, a leading Catholic intellectual explains why the teachings of the Second Vatican Council are essential to the Church's future and the world's future. The Second Vatican Council was the most important Catholic event in the past 500 years. Yet 60 years after its opening on October the 11th, 1962, its meaning remains sharply contested and its promise unfulfilled. In To Sanctify the World, George Weigel explains the necessity of Vatican II and explores the continuing relevance of its teaching in a world seeking a deeper experience of freedom than personal willfulness. The Council's texts are also a critical resource for the Catholic Church as it lives out its original Christ-centered evangelical purpose. Written with insight and verve, To Sanctify the World recovers the true meaning of Vatican II as the template for a Catholicism that can propose a path toward genuine human dignity and social solidarity. Christ-centered evangelical purpose. The Roman Catholic Church has nothing to do with Jesus Christ or the gospel. It is not Christ-centered. It is beast-centered. But don't forget that the beast claims to be Jesus Christ on earth. And that's what they mean in this hidden. All the meanings are hidden. Everything they say, the true meaning is hidden. And what they mean by genuine human dignity and social solidarity, what they mean by that is a one world, Luciferian world under the beast. That's what they mean. Now, this book totally agrees with Rome Stoops to Conquer. It's telling the same story of Roman conquest. Remember that Vatican II was simply the reaffirmation of the Council of Trent war plan dating way, way back at the beginning of the formation of the Jesuit order. So all they're doing is reaffirming the curses against anyone who opposes the Pope, anyone who opposes Rome, anyone who opposes the Roman Catholic cult. So this book is telling the same story of Roman conquest. And please note that the title says Sanctify the World, not the church. It says Sanctify the World. Now you and I and all living souls have been included in this Roman program of sanctification, whether we wanted this or not. No one was asked. Now remember that Vatican II, like I said, was just a re-ratification of the Jesuit Council of Trent war plan against all heretics devised in the 16th century by the Jesuits. Now that means you and I and anyone else who refuses to obey the Vatican agenda for one world are labeled heretics. So basically Vatican II was a Jesuit meeting, a Jesuit congregation reaffirming the original war plan against the peoples of the world. The last sentence in this introduction makes it clear: a Catholicism or universalism that can propose a path toward genuine human dignity and social solidarity. Well, what is social solidarity in Catholic terms? Nothing other than world communitarianism with the Pope as ruler over all. The message from Rome has never changed. It is, we rule the world and you will obey or be exterminated. This is the explanation for all the wars, revolutions, genocides, and deception for the last 1800 years, as Rome has brutally clawed her way to power by exterminating her enemies. In slide number 8, we can read an excerpt from the fourth Jesuit oath. And let me tell you, this was not written as a joke. The Jesuits are deadly serious about their mission. The earth has run red with the blood of their victims for nearly 5 centuries. So reading in the slide, this oath states, I do further promise and declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage relentless war secretly and openly. Secretly, see? And openly. Against all heretics, Protestants, and Masons, as I am directed to do, to extirpate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, nor condition, and that will hang, burn, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, that's you and me, rip up the stomachs and wombs of their women, that's you and me, and crush their infants' heads against the walls in order to annihilate their execrable race. That's our children. That when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poisonous cup, the strangulation cord, the steel of the poniard, which is a knife or dagger, or the leaden bullet, which is the gun. Regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed to do by any agents of the Pope or Superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Father of the Society of Jesus. I do further promise and declare that notwithstanding I am dispensed with to assume any religion heretical for the propagation of the Mother Church's interest, to take sides with the combatants and act secretly with your brother Jesuit who might be engaged on the other side, but openly opposed to that which you might be connected, only that the Church might be the gainer in the end, in the conditions fixed in the treaties for peace, and that the end justifies the means. So go then into all the world and take possession of all lands in the name of the Pope. He who will not accept him as the vicar of Jesus and his vice-regent on earth, let him be accursed and exterminated. I hope you're understanding, people, if you haven't thus far, that anybody who will not accept the Pope, the beast, will be as accursed and will be exterminated. Now notice that the first clause of that secret oath at the top there, it says, I will make and wage relentless war secretly and openly. And that's what they've done, people. Secretly, using all the intelligence agencies worldwide, and openly through the cultural agencies, they have made war against the peoples of the world. Rome will do anything it has to do in order to secure its goal of world domination. No one will be spared if they do not obey the Pope, the beast, and his image government. Neither will you or I be spared. No one will be spared, ultimately. And that is what the Bible teaches. In slide number 9, we can see a screenshot on the right of an AI reply denying that the Roman Catholic cult is the first modern intelligence gathering organization, while at the same time admitting that it has a sophisticated information network. And you get this double speak all the time. It's to be expected. Now, reading in the slide, you can see at the top there in the screenshot, while the Catholic Church, like many historical institutions, has always gathered information, it is generally inaccurate to call it the first modern intelligence organization. Historians agree that a sophisticated information network existed. See, past tense, no longer. That's not true. That's a lie. Existed in the Vatican for centuries, primarily through its diplomatic service and confessional system. And then it goes, however, modern intelligence agencies as we know them today are typically characterized by centralized, state-run organizations focused on national security, espionage, and covert operations, which evolved much later, primarily from the 16th century onward. We see that's a lie, because the Jesuits control all these organizations. The Jesuits created civil governments. You see? They got rid of the kings, set up civil governments, which were then controlled by Freemasonry. And now they're in the process of getting rid of those civil governments because they're not necessary anymore. Right? So they're making it sound as if this intelligence system existed in the past. No, it totally controls the world today. And nearly every country has an intelligence agency which reports back to Rome. Now, Jesuit-controlled, reading in the slide there, Jesuit-controlled AI denies the truth that the Vatican is the first modern intelligence gathering organization operating to the ends of the earth, and it did. The Vatican is a state, and it is centralized, and all clergy are agents or spies. Roman Catholic priests have always operated as covert intelligence gatherers, reporting on the people and enemies to be exterminated. All Roman Catholics are spies and report on their neighbors via the confessional box or via communitarian and NGO organizations. Now, if you think I'm kidding about this, you do not understand how the intelligence operations are organized worldwide by the Jesuits. It's a top-down operation with everybody spying and reporting on each other one way or another. We are living in a communitarian hell. A communitarian hell, so to speak, because everybody is surveilling or monitoring each other in one way or another, either openly or covertly, secretly. And of course, we are all being monitored technologically as well through cell phones and through the internet and Wi-Fi. It's one massive spiderweb network of surveillance, tracking, and communication. In slide number 10, we can see another screenshot on the right of an AI reply about Jesuit intelligence. As in the last slide, the reply is a denial, calling the claim a conspiracy theory. The truth is treated as conspiracy theory. You have to understand this is what AI does, because it can only refer to what is fed to it. Now, reading in the slide at the top of the screenshot, you can see the claim that the Jesuit order is the first modern intelligence collecting agency is not a factual historical consensus, but rather a prominent historical characterization and conspiracy theory that points to similarities between Jesuit methods and modern intelligence gathering. Historians generally consider the British Secret Service Bureau, the forerunner to the MI5 and MI6, established in 1909, to be the first official modern-style intelligence agency. And that is what you would expect to hear from AI. Now, I've asked AI these questions, and these are the answers that it has given to me. There's constant denial of any connection of intelligence, military being controlled by the Roman Catholic Church or the Jesuit order. Constant denial of the truth. Now, I've written there in the slide, Jesuit-controlled AI denies the truth about Jesuit intelligence gathering, calling it a conspiracy theory. And why wouldn't Satan's AI do that? Of course it would. I've written that the Jesuit order is in fact the first modern worldwide intelligence collecting and spy agency. Under cover of religious missionary work on all continents, the Jesuit order infiltrated and subverted the freedoms and autonomy of all the peoples of the world. And that is how the beast has gradually taken control of all the nations. In slide number 11, we can see that American intelligence services originate in British military agencies. This is because they are complementary to each other in war. And remember that we have been constantly at war. There is a war raging all over the earth. It's a spiritual war, and that war never stops. It's 24/7. Remember that Rome is constantly at war with people groups. Intelligence is necessary to deceive and overcome the enemy. Rome is at war because Satan is the god of war, and Satan is perpetually waging war against the peoples of the world. Now, reading in the slide, you can see that it says there that the British intelligence origins trace back to 19th century military intelligence branches formalized in 1909 with the Secret Service Bureau, or the SSB, a joint Admiralty War Office initiative focused on Germany, which split into the Domestic Security Service, MI5, and Foreign Intelligence Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, both officially operating from 1910 under Commander Mansfield Cumming. Now, yes, these intelligence agencies were created in order to make people believe that governments handle their own intelligence, that governments are responsible for intelligence, that governments are doing all these things, when in fact, no, it's the Jesuit order working through governments and through their intelligence agencies that control all world systems. Now, the connections between British intelligence and American intelligence are close. The Jesuits control all intelligence from all national intelligence agencies worldwide. They have eyes and ears everywhere. In slide number 12, we can see another AI screenshot reply denying that the Jesuit order is a military organization. The standard reply is that they are spiritually militant only. Spiritually militant. Right. What a lie. People forget that the Vatican is a political state and it has an army. In fact, it has many armies. Every national army worldwide is a Roman army, and the Jesuits are the intellectual guerrillas of Rome. Now, reading in the slide, you can see the screenshot at the top there. It says the Jesuit order, formerly known as the Society of Jesus, is a Catholic religious order and not a military organization in the modern sense, though it has historical associations with military structure and terminology. And there it goes. It'll give you 4 points explaining away how the Jesuits are not a military in the real world sense, but they are just religious priests. It says there, religious mission, not military action, and it gives the founder's background. Everybody forgets that Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, was a soldier. He was a military man. And then it's got organizational terminology, and then it's got the nickname God's Marines, right? The Jesuits are nicknamed God's Marines due to their strict discipline and willingness to be sent anywhere in the world to serve the Pope's command. And they earned this nickname, God's soldiers or God's Marines. And people cannot see that all the world's militaries are based on the Jesuit order. The discipline of all the world's militaries, the functioning, the coordination, the strategizing, the plan, the war-making plans are all based on the Jesuit order and their book, The Art of War. So, again, in the slide, once again, Jesuit programmed AI denies that the Jesuit order is a military organization in a real operational sense. Pope Paul III established the Jesuit order with a bull titled Regimini Militantis Ecclesiae in 1540, establishing it as a military order. All world militaries are based on the Jesuit order, mode of thinking and operation. Fidel Castro was a Jesuit and military man. Joseph Stalin was a Jesuit and a military man. Pol Pot and Mao Zedong were Jesuits and military men. They are all killers for Rome. All of them. No exceptions to the rule. In slide number 13, we can see 2 pictures. The one on the left is of Charles Joseph Bonaparte, and the one on the right is of Theodore Roosevelt's inner circle of power, with Charles Bonaparte seated third from the left at the rear there. You can see him in the middle, almost in the middle of the photo. An online encyclopedia gives us the basic facts about this man. It states, and I quote, Charles Joseph Bonaparte was an American lawyer and political activist of French noble descent who advocated for progressive and liberal causes. Originally from Baltimore, Maryland, he served in the cabinet of the 26th U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt. You'll see that many prominent Catholics, movers and shakers, emanate from out of Maryland, the original landing place of 200 Roman Catholics in 1634. So Bonaparte was a descendant of the House of Bonaparte. His grandfather was Jerome Bonaparte, brother of Emperor Napoleon I, and his grandmother was Elizabeth Patterson Bonaparte. Bonaparte was the U.S. Secretary of the Navy and later the U.S. Attorney General. During his tenure as Attorney General, he formed the Bureau of Investigation, now called the FBI, used to be called initially the BOI, or BOI. Now, Bonaparte was one of the founders and for a time the president of the National Municipal League. He was also an activist for the voting rights of black residents of his native city of Baltimore. Fancy that. An activist for black residents. Who controls the BLM? Of course, it's the Roman Catholic cult. Now, the premier U.S. intelligence agency, the FBI, was created by Catholic Freemason under a Catholic Masonic president in 1908. I am willing to almost guarantee that all the men in the photo on the right in the slide are Roman Catholic or Freemasons or both. The Vatican has ruled America long before Teddy Roosevelt became president in 1901. Did you know that Roosevelt was also the 33rd governor of New York? Look at those dates. 1901 is 9/11, and 33rd governor is 33. What are the chances of that? Now, it's a numbers game, people, and if you don't understand this, then much of what has gone on in history will remain shrouded in mystery for you. And I can assure you that Bonaparte was taking instructions from the Jesuits, just as all his successors have been doing since. The FBI is a Roman Catholic agency. In slide number 14, we can see on the right at the top of the logo for the FBI. Note the stylized sun rays around the edge, just like the Jesuit sun logo underneath it. The Jesuit logo has 32 sun rays corresponding to the 32 Masonic degrees, but the FBI logo actually has 40 sun ray points with 10 complete pyramid points. I don't fully understand what they all represent. They can represent many things. Notice the staggered straight and curved points on the Jesuit logo and the same pattern reflected in the FBI logo. You can also see the 13 stars representing the original 13 American colonies and the number 13. The scales of justice in the heraldic acorn shape with the yellow for the papacy and the 5 red and white stripes for the 5 Jesuit provinces in the USA. You can also see the Roman laurel wreath and the motto fidelity, bravery, and integrity, and the double circle symbolizing 2 halves of a whole. The universal symbolism of connection, as well as the inner and the outer meaning, those who know and those who don't. That's what those circles symbolize. Are there other meanings packed in here? Absolutely. These logos are a study in occult meaning all by themselves. Now, if you read in the slide there, it says, yes, the FBI managed significant foreign intelligence and counterintelligence before the OSS, establishing its Special Intelligence Service, or SIS, in 1940 to gather political and economic info globally, even operating in Latin America during World War II when the OSS was focused on European operations, highlighting the fragmented, competitive U.S. intelligence landscape before the OSS and later CIA-coordinated efforts. So you can see that all these intelligence agencies, the FBI, the OSS, the CIA, the SIS, the NAS, they're all working together for the Jesuits. All of them. They work in conjunction. Maybe they compete a little bit with each other, but they work in conjunction with each other to bring about the completion of the final plan, which is to totally enslave every single soul and to know every single thing about every single soul through intelligence. Now, in slide number 15, we can see 4 pictures concerning the OSS, or Overseas Security Office. The short-lived SIS morphed into the OSS, which then became the CIA a few years later. At the top left, we can see a picture of Bill Donovan, who is credited inaccurately as the founder of the OSS. Underneath that is a picture of a spearhead, which looks also like a spade. The spear is important in occult symbology. The picture in the middle is of Dick Ellis, who actually created the blueprint for the OSS and CIA. On the right of the slide is a diagram of the OSS hierarchy under Ellis and Donovan. Now, reading in the slide, you can see that Roosevelt requested that William Wild Bill Donovan draft a plan for an intelligence service based on the British Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, and Special Operations Executive, SOE. Donovan worked closely with Australian-born British intelligence officer Charles Howard Dick Ellis, who has been credited with writing the blueprint. In an online encyclopedia, we can read, William Casey, who headed up OSS's Europe-based Human Intelligence Operations, the Secret Intelligence Branch, and went on to become director of the CIA, wrote in his autobiography, The Secret War Against Hitler, that Ellis, Dick Ellis, was not only writing blueprints, but involved in on-the-ground logistical programs. Dick Ellis, an experienced British pro, helped establish training centers mostly around Washington. United States Assistant Secretary of State Adolph Burrow commented, the really active head of the intelligence section in William Donovan's OSS group is Ellis. In other words, Stevenson's assistant in the British intelligence is running Donovan's intelligence service. Can you see what's going on here? British intelligence was running American intelligence during the OSS period. Is it still running the CIA? That we don't know. But we know that the Jesuits run all world intelligence agencies, so it would not be surprising. Now, in another statement, Colonel K.E. Bruce said that without Ellis's assistance, American intelligence could not have gotten off the ground in World War II. And after his death, Ellis was alleged to have been a spy or a triple agent for Germany and the Soviet Union. This is how the Jesuits discredit their agents. According to British author Nigel West, a Joint Security Service, MI5, and Secret Intelligence Service, SIS or MI6, internal group called the Fluency Committee believed that Ellis had been a spy for Nazi Germany's military intelligence unit, the Abwehr, prior to World War II. Now, who knows what he was put up to? There is no proof of any of these claims. It is clear, however, that these men are taking instructions from the Jesuits to be all things to all men. That is what a spy is, and that is what the Jesuits do. They are two-faced like the god Janus. They can be anything they need to be in order to achieve their tasks so that the Roman Catholic cult wins in the end. Remember the Jesuit fourth oath, that the church may be the winner in the end. They are serving the Pope and his military and not any country. And this is how Rome stooped to conquer. How did Rome do it? Through politics, through intelligence, through the military, and through cultural agencies. They have conquered the nations. In slide number 16, we can see a screenshot of the CIA website listing stating, "We are the nation's first line of defense." Now, my question is always, defense from what, if there is no enemy? And there really is no enemy. We can only conclude that the real enemy is the American people themselves, and that the CIA has been waging war against the American people in deadly earnest on all fronts since its inception in 1947. And I'm not the only person who is making that claim. I've read other writers who have said exactly the same thing. So this is the reality. Now, reading in the slide, at the top right there, you can see that the Central Intelligence Agency is a civilian foreign intelligence service of the federal government of the United States tasked with advancing national security through collecting and analyzing intelligence from around the world and conducting covert operations. Covert operations. Collecting and analyzing intelligence from around the world. This is inclusive, people. It includes all peoples, including the American people. This is what the Jesuits do. They have been collecting information on you and I, every living soul, ever since they started. Now, CIA means Catholics in Action and not Central Intelligence Agency. This is very, very important to understand. The CIA is the Catholics in Action Agency. That's what it really means. In slide number 17, we can see another screenshot of an AI summary based on what CIA with a small I, what that really means. This is how the Jesuits elide meanings. They elide meanings by overlapping them, blending them together, merging them, playing on the use of a capital I or a small I. This kind of deception keeps people from asking more questions about the real meaning of the CIA acronym. Now, reading in the slide there, you can see when I asked the question to AI about Catholics in Action, it comes back with Catholics in Action refers to various lay movements within the Catholic Church focused on putting faith into practice through social service, evangelization, and civic engagement. It did not come back telling me that Catholics in Action is the CIA or a Central Intelligence Agency. And this is how people asking questions to AI are going to be deceived again and again and again, because AI will not answer truthfully, because it can't answer truthfully. So it is very, very important to be knowledgeable so that when we ask questions, we can understand clearly when the answer is false and we are being deceived. In slide number 18, we can see a screenshot taken from the CIA website showing the development or evolution of the CIA, Catholics in Action. There are 5 changes between 1941 and 1947. So what's going on? The Jesuits are preparing for their World War III intelligence Cold War. That's what's going on. World War III will last for 44 years and result in a world dominated by fear based on lies. So estimates for deaths from Cold War conflicts vary wildly, but historians suggest over 40 million casualties occurred in Roman proxy wars in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, amongst others, between 1945 and 1991, with most deaths in developing nations, while direct U.S. military casualties during that time were around 36,000 men. Now, I don't believe these numbers. I believe the numbers are much higher. But 40 million casualties over 44 years. The Cold War was World War III. And that's what all these intelligence agencies were being prepared for prior to 1947. Prior, and just after the formation of the United Nations. They were preparing for a Cold War. The whole spy and secret agent and nuclear arms race propaganda was a total scam. But it killed a lot of people. Where was the United Nations beast world government in all of this? Well, the Korean War was a United Nations war, but after that ended in 1953, the United States took over as world policeman, and all by design. And remember that the United States was told to do that. The United States was told to take over and to dominate world affairs, while the United Nations was made to appear as a hopeless basket case, when actually it was the opposite. Now, the CIA and the Department of Defense worked very closely together to keep the world divided and oppressed under Roman dictatorships, with the threat of military action at any time somewhere in the world to suppress the fictional communist threat or to keep a dictator in power. If only people understood that the US, the Russians, and the Chinese were working together for much of the time at the top. At the bottom, everyone thought they were heroes working to protect their country. And it's just not true. The Cold War was a total psyop, and the CIA, in conjunction with the other intelligence agencies, made it all possible with their black ops programs and spy nonsense, which have never ceased and which people believe. Now, if you look in the slide there, you can see the progression, the 5 steps of the development of the CIA from 1941 to 1947. And don't forget that the FBI works very, very closely. That is also a central intelligence agency. These agencies all work together. They all have different tasks, and they are there to enslave the peoples of the world. In slide number 19, we can see another screenshot from the CIA website titled Our Agency. Note the statement on the right-hand side. It is an open admission of guilt that these people are causing all the problems worldwide. And if you look at that statement, it reads, "We give U.S. leaders the intelligence they need to keep our country safe." From who? The question is always, safe from who? Now, it says there, as the world's premier foreign intelligence agency, the work we do at CIA is vital to U.S. national security. We collect and analyze foreign intelligence and conduct covert action. U.S. policymakers, including the President of the United States, make policy decisions informed by the information we provide. So once again, who's the enemy? Well, there is no enemy. They make enemies. They just invent enemies, and then using these conflicts, they smash the people up and enslave them. That's the work of the CIA, people. There's no noble work being done by the CIA on behalf of the American people that's any good. In slide number 20, we can see a picture of John Ratcliffe, current director of the CIA. This man is yet another Roman Catholic Jesuit puppet following orders. There have been 20 distinct individuals who have been director of the CIA, with 25 to 28 leadership changes involving acting directors since 1947. William Colby was assassinated in 1996 near his home in Delaware. We will never know why he was murdered. Much of what we have seen in spy movies is nonsense. However, to say that the CIA doesn't play spy games and kill perceived enemies is just naive. In slide number 19, the CIA admit we conduct covert operations. Why secret? Doing what? Oh, killing people. That's what. That's how the Jesuits remove their enemies. They kill them using CIA-trained assassins. We've seen this all played out in hundreds of movies. So we don't need to question this. We just need to accept this is a reality. In slide number 21, we can see a screenshot of a CIA webpage titled History of the CIA. Notice how there's no article, the, before CIA. That's because it reads better as Catholics in Action, where an article isn't needed. So read it again as History of Catholics in Action. And you pretty well got it right. Now, if you read in the slide, it says there, our agency is built on the creativity and agility of intelligence officers dedicated to safeguarding our nation. That perpetual lie of safeguarding the nation, which is the opposite of what they do. The Office of Strategic Services, our agency's forerunner, was created during World War II and was America's first global intelligence organization. OSS was capable of coordinated espionage, covert action, and counterintelligence, all of which are pieces of today's CIA. And then it goes on to talk about what the CIA is supposed to be doing. And of course, it's all the inverse of what they tell us. In slide number 22, we can see a screenshot of the homepage of the CIA website with the title, We Are the Nation's First Line of Defense. And again, the question is, defense against who? America has no enemies to the north or to the south or to the east or to the west. Defense against who? It is a false claim, deceiving Americans because the actual defense is against the American people, but they don't know this. They are the enemy that the CIA has been targeting all along since 1947. And if you look in the slide there, it says underneath the title, we accomplish what others cannot accomplish and go where others cannot go. A career at CIA is unlike any other. We are looking for people from all backgrounds and walks of life to carry out the work of a nation. The work of a nation? No. The work, maybe true. The work of the Vatican. The Vatican is a nation. So yes, they're working to carry out the work of a nation for the beast, for the Vatican state. That's who these Americans are working for, who work for the CIA and all the other intelligence agencies. They're not working for the United States, but they believe that they are. Total deception. In slide number 23, we can see another screenshot from the CIA website titled Our Legacy. Now, reading in the slide, it says, CIA's legacy is one of brave individuals dedicated to freedom, fulfilling our intelligence mission with ingenuity and grit. Protecting our country is at the heart of our mission, past, present, and future. From our World War II roots through today, we carry on the traditions of ingenuity, bravery, and quiet sacrifice that have made us the world's premier foreign intelligence agency. Well, of course, it's all lies. And the truth, again, inverted. The legacy. Well, it tells you about the Masonic foundation of the CIA. In slide number 24, we can see another screenshot from the CIA website. This is titled, Make Our Legacy Your Legacy. Find your calling with a career at CIA. Now, who should pop up here but the woman in red, symbolizing the whore of Babylon? It's all Masonic, folks, if you have eyes to see it. Now, reading in the slide, it says, at CIA, your work is more than a job. It's a mindset and a lifestyle. When you are part of the nation's premier intelligence agency, you are on the front lines of history with boundless opportunities to grow and contribute to our nation. And to die if you get on the wrong side of these folks, because they will kill you, like they killed Casey, who was assassinated. In slide number 25, we can see a screenshot from the CIA website titled Our Stories. This is where you are going to be told the sanitized version of what the CIA wants you to believe about it. This is where the Jesuits are going to glorify Rome's CIA agents and operatives as heroes of the nation while excluding the wicked deeds of these mind-controlled people. It's It's all there, but it's all inverted. The story has been inverted. It's all sanitized. In slide number 26, we can see a short list of programs that enabled the Jesuits to subvert social morality and traditional family values in the USA and worldwide. Society everywhere worldwide is fragmented, people. Some places it's worse than others. In the United States and Canada, society is very, very fragmented and mind-controlled. How did that happen? It didn't happen overnight. And reading in the slide, you can see that the United States was gradually conquered from within while it was busy conquering abroad. How did the Jesuits do it? By releasing the chaos agents into wider society. Number one, internal subversive movements, fracturing and dividing society, like BLM, Q, Antifa, Anon, etc. Number two, cult religions, Roman Catholicism, Freemasonry, Gnostic mysticism, Protestantism, they have all undermined a healthy society. Number three, transcendental meditation and yoga. Eastern mysticism is rampant everywhere today, worldwide, as well as all through North American society. Number four, psychotropic drugs, LSD, marijuana, mescaline, cocaine, heroin, mushrooms, etc., magic mushrooms. It's rampant all across society worldwide today. Drugs have stupefied people into submission to the beast without them even realizing it. And of course, we've got all the vaccines we can add to that as well, because they are, in effect, psychotropic drugs, because they affect brain function and nerve function. Number five, subversive ideologies, communism, feminism, anarchism, nationalism, etc. All the isms are embraced by many, many people, and because of this, it has fractured society. Number six, MK Ultra mind control, hypnotism, shock therapy, mind trauma, LSD. Many people have been subjected through the militaries and through other agencies to these treatments and have then released into society to create chaos in many different ways. Number seven, fomenting revolution in education, liberation theology, social justice theology, evolution. There's many, what would you call it? Doctrines. Many doctrines have fomented revolution through education, through beast education, United Nations beast education. Number eight, sensational false conspiracy theories like deep space, reptilians, aliens, etc. There's many of these sensational false conspiracy theories which have divided people and deceived people. Number nine, sexual liberation, starting with the Alfred Kinsey report way back in the 50s. The aim was to destroy biblical sexual morality in society, and they have done this. Sexual immorality, fornication, depravity of every kind is rampant in society, and particularly in North American society today. In slide number 27, we can see two pictures of publications on the topic of hypnotism. The picture on the left is a Science Digest magazine article dated 1971. The picture on the right is a book titled Hypnotism by George H. Estabrooks, published in 1943. Now, why am I looking at hypnotism? Simply because hypnotism was used by the CIA on many subjects in order to produce Manchurian candidates who could be programmed to carry out tasks without any memory of it. And this applies to celebrities of all kinds. They've been subjected to hypnotism, hypnotic programs. Now, here is what an online article has to say about this man, Estabrooks. And I quote, George Hoban Estabrooks, born December 1895, died December 1973. was a Canadian-American psychologist and an authority on hypnosis. During World War II, he was a Harvard University graduate, a Rhodes Scholar, and chairman of the Department of Psychology at Colgate University. He claimed to have used hypnosis to help spies have split personalities, to not actually know they were spies in case of capture. He stated it was easy to create and easy to cure using hypnosis. Please take note of what the encyclopedia itself is claiming about this man and about what they have been doing with hypnotism. This man joined the 1st Canadian Division in his teens and at the age of 19 became the youngest commissioned officer. So you've got a military man, a Freemason, involved with expanding hypnotic programs into the Canadian and American military. Later in life, he became a 32nd degree Knight Templar Mason and wrote various articles and books, including these 4 publications: The Future of the Human Mind, Hypnotism, Spiritism, and Man, the Mechanical Misfit. Estabrooks did experiments on children. He exchanged correspondence with then FBI Director Edgar Hoover about using hypnosis to interrogate juvenile delinquents. It is possible he used Manchurian candidates in children. Now, hypnotic techniques are the root cause of why society is the way it is today. Mind control. Much of the hypnotism occurs through TV programs and movies and music. The military has also put many people through hypnotism programs. This may account for the raft of serial killers that appeared suddenly in the 1970s, as well as all kinds of antisocial behavior. Hallucinogenic drugs, hypnosis, and meditation changed the behavior of much of the world's population, and certainly in North America was a big target for the Jesuits. Now, Rome stooped to conquer America using mind control through new mind-altering drugs like LSD, cultural productions like music and movies, meditation, and hypnosis. This is simply a fact, people, and I'm presenting it here with pictures and dates and times and names so you can see all the links to how Rome stooped to conquer America. In slide number 28, we can see a screenshot of a website listing called Hypnosio. Hypnosio. People can now access hypnosis techniques for payment via an app. This is not a joke. What was once mocked or produced cynicism is now being marketed as an aid to anyone for payment. And if you read in the slide there, you can see it says Hypnosio on the right-hand side. Hypnosio is rated great. It says Hypnosio brings expert-guided hypnotherapy to your fingertips, helping you achieve personal goals like weight loss, better sleep, and enhanced confidence. Our science-backed audio sessions combine effective hypnotherapy with mindful relaxation, promoting lasting and meaningful change. Personalized hypnotherapy programs. So you can see, people, this is not a joke. The American people are now hypnotizing themselves. They are doing it all to themselves. They are injecting themselves, testing themselves, hypnotizing themselves. Can you see what Satan is doing? That's why there's no way out of this situation. It's impossible. There's no way back. People are damaged goods and cannot be repaired. In slide number 29, we can see a screenshot of the homepage for the Hypnosio website. Hypnosis and demonization for payment. Do it yourself. DIY. Hypnosio.com. And this is just one company doing this, making money from hypnosis. So people, this is a very, very serious situation. Many people think nothing of hypnosis and are involved in this. Millions, maybe billions. In slide number 30, we can see a screenshot of the National Security Agency web listing. The NSA is another intelligence department founded by Harry Truman in 1952 and based in Maryland, which targets the American people. This agency monitors and records all phone and internet communications with huge tech facilities. This agency works with the FBI and CIA and other U.S. intelligence departments, as well as the military. Reading in the slide, you can see that the National Security Agency is a U.S. intelligence agency within the Department of Defense. You see, it's in the DOD. It's embedded in the DOD, leading in signals intelligence and cybersecurity, responsible for protecting U.S. networks and collecting foreign intelligence to provide decisive advantages for national security. Headquartered in Fort Meade, Maryland. The NSA also oversees the Central Security Service, or CSS, to support military cryptology. All connected, people. It's one spider web. It's a network of defense and defense agencies and intelligence agencies. It's all meshed together, all controlled by the beast. And as you can see, they control the internet. They control the internet. U.S. networks, cybersecurity. They control the internet, people. They control everything that Google and all the other search engines, all the other web agencies, they control them all. And that's the National Security Agency. All connected. Slide number 31, we can see a screenshot from the Compatibility World YouTube channel posted August the 2nd, 2025, asking, why is America becoming Catholic? Well, this is a Roman Catholic propaganda channel evangelizing the Roman Catholic religion. America is not becoming Catholic, people. America has been Catholic for hundreds of years. Catholic, not religiously, but Catholic in mind. Catholic simply means universal. The American people have been universalized for a long, long time. You don't have to go to a Catholic church to be Catholic. Catholic means universal. Roman universal. And the American people, the Canadian people, have been Roman universals for a long time. They're not becoming Catholic. Very misleading title for this video. The description for the video states, and I quote, "In today's world, freedom is often misunderstood as the ability to do whatever we want, but history and experience show that this path leads to emptiness, confusion, and spiritual restlessness. In this video, we explore why more and more Americans are turning to the Catholic Church as a beacon of truth, stability, and authentic freedom. Discover how Catholicism provides the structure, clarity, and moral foundation that modern society is deliberately missing. Learn why Protestant fragmentation, moral uncertainty, and the rise of digital access to Scripture and apologetics are leading people toward the church that has remained steadfast for over 2,000 years. If you've ever asked questions like, where can I find true peace? What is the purpose of my life? Or how do I live in harmony with God's will? This video will guide you to the answers that only the Catholic faith can provide." Unquote. And everything that is in that statement is a lie, because the Roman Catholic Church cannot provide answers, true answers. Only the Bible can. Only Jesus Christ can provide the true answers. The Roman Catholic Church is not the Church of God in the world. Now, if you've ever asked questions like, there is a wave of these Catholic channels sweeping YouTube today. Lots of them. They've been appearing more and more and more over this last year and a half. It is an indication that the beast smells blood, and he is moving fast and hard to deceive people who are looking for stability, but don't want to change. That means they don't want to repent, but they want religion. They want religious stability, but they don't want to change. That is why people transition to Roman Catholicism. And it's all been planned that way, to drive younger generations to Roman Catholicism in their search for meaning in a world that doesn't seem to have any meaning anymore. And why doesn't the world have meaning anymore? Well, it's because the Roman Catholic cult destroyed all the foundations for meaning. You can see it's circular. They destroy life, and then they drive people towards the Roman Catholic Church looking for the meaning of life. It's diabolical, snake eating its tail. In slide number 32, we can see two artist-created flag designs based on the American stars and stripes. These are more historically accurate than the U.S. flag we see today. At the top, we see the papal flag, colors of yellow and white with the papal three-tiered tiara with keys crossed in the skull and crossbone style, superimposed over the stars and stripes. The design at the bottom shows the papal crown and keys together with the 13 stars in the upper left-hand corner of the flag. The stars represent the original 13 colonies and just the number 13, which were controlled by the Pope through the British Crown and which are still significant in government control today. The 13 red and white stripes represent those same 13 original colonies formed between 1607 and 1733. These two flags represent the true state of things both politically and spiritually in the USA today. This is why there is no way back and no way out of the current U.S. crisis. The Jesuits are in the final stage of humiliating the American people, while at the same time they are humiliating the international community using Trump's seemingly crazy political decisions. We are looking at the United States or the United Provinces of Rome today, and not the United States of America. In slide number 33, we can see two pictures. The one on the left is of Antonio Gramsci and one of his quotes, which states, "The old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters." Unquote. Gramsci could say this, or Gramsci, however you want to pronounce that, could say this from experience because he had been to Russia in 1922 and saw the Bolshevik Revolution in action firsthand. It was a monster. On the right side of the slide, we can see a short explanation of what cultural hegemony means. This idea was a big part of Gramsci's philosophy. The Jesuits used his ideas to formulate a cultural Trojan horse that could infiltrate and subvert the minds of not only Americans, but also people worldwide. American culture was created to mind control and deceive the masses with Luciferian humanist ideals. Rome stooped to conquer America and the world with American books, movies, and music, stage productions, etc., etc. Hollywood fictions and dreams are the stories of the cultural elite by which to control the masses. And you can see in this slide on the right-hand side, it says cultural hegemony is the philosophical and sociological concept that a culturally diverse society can be ruled or dominated by one of its social classes. It is the dominance of one social group over another, e.g. the ruling class over all other classes. The theory claims that the ideas of the ruling class come to be seen as the norm. They are seen as universal ideologies perceived to benefit everyone, whilst they only really benefiting the ruling class. And of course, this is true. Only the upper elite of the Romans enjoy the privileges of wealth and status and power and that's true. But there's other meanings to what cultural hegemony stands for. And we see today that the ideas of the Jesuits, the ideologies, the concepts and ideas have been imposed through movies and music, books, education, onto the minds of the young, thus brainwashing them, mind controlling them into the New World Order. In slide number 34, we can see a picture on the left of Alfred Joseph Hitchcock, a British filmmaker. Hitchcock really got the cultural ball rolling with his spy thriller movies, starting in the UK and then moving to Hollywood. Now, reading in the slides, you can see that Hitchcock grew up in a household that was characterized by an atmosphere of discipline. His parents were both Roman Catholics with English and Irish ancestry. He attended his first school, the Howard House Convent, which he entered at age 7. According to biographer, he stayed at Howard House for at most 2 years. He also attended a convent school, the Woad Street School, for the daughters of gentlemen and little boys, run by the Faithful Companions of Jesus. He then attended a primary school near his home and was for a short time a boarder at Salesian College in Battersea. The family moved again when he was 11, and he was sent to St. Ignatius College, a Jesuit grammar school with a reputation for discipline. Hitchcock said he was usually among the 4 or 5 at the top of the class at the end of his first year. His work in Latin, English, French, and religious education was noted. He told Peter Bogdanovich, another celebrity Hollywood director, "The Jesuits taught me organization, control, and to some degree, analysis." They taught him a lot more than that. Everything they taught him, everything he learned, he put into his movies. Now, was Hitchcock mind controlled? Very possible. Would not be surprised if all the directors, producers, actors, and actresses go through mind control programs. Now, in the next 14 slides, we can get a glimpse of the Jesuits mind controlled the world with movie and TV spells centered on spies and secret agents and international intelligence intrigue over more than 100 years. The entertainment mind control program was wildly successful for the Jesuits and was worth the trillions of dollars that Rome spent on it. And Alfred Hitchcock really got the ball rolling. In slide number 35, we can see 2 of Alfred Hitchcock's successful early movies based on intelligence and spies. The first is from 1935 titled The 39 Steps, and the second is from 1936 titled Secret Agent. You may be familiar with the movies in this list. These movies are pure predictive programming with the Jesuit divided world narrative and the fear of us and them creating fictional enemies. This kind of mindset started with Alfred Hitchcock in 1935. And what book was released in 1935 that we started this slideshow with? Rome Stoops to Conquer was published the same year, 1935, as Alfred Hitchcock's The 39 Steps. So you can see everything has been coordinated by the Jesuits in Europe, in the United States. Doesn't matter. They are on all continents and control it all. In slide number 36, we can see 2 well-known movies from the 40s related to the same themes. The first is Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious from 1946, and the second is Carol Reed's The Third Man, made famous by Orson Welles. These 2 movies preyed on the fears of the communist threat at the beginning of the Jesuits' Third World Intelligence Cold War. Fear and paranoia reigned during the Cold War, and the Jesuits made good use of this fear and paranoia to sell movies, movie tickets, and to embed these ideas deep in the minds of people watching them. In slide number 37, we can see two famous movies from the 1950s. The first is My Favorite Spy from 1951 with Bob Hope and Hedy Lamarr. The second is North by Northwest from 1959 by Alfred Hitchcock. By using comedy and drama, the Jesuits totally disarmed the active interest of the people in investigating the CIA and government intelligence activities. These movies served to imprint the American public with the idea that the CIA and the U.S. government were the good guys protecting them, the public, when it was exactly the opposite. CIA is very heavily involved in Hollywood movie production. In fact, I don't believe that any movie can be made without CIA Jesuit approval. In slide number 38, we can see a popular movie from 1962 titled The Manchurian Candidate, and a remake of the same movie in 2004 with the same title starring Denzel Washington. Why do this? Why remake movies? Movies that are selected to be redone have very high occult power. There's 42 years between them, which is 2 generations. They needed to imprint the occult concepts in this movie into the minds of the new generations. That's why they do it. That's why they do the remakes. Are they running out of ideas? Yeah, maybe that too. In slide number 39, we can see 2 more movies from the 1960s. The first movie is the first James Bond movie, Dr. No, from 1962, and the second is The Spy Who Came In From the Cold from 1965. These movies had a huge impact on world populations and were very successful financially. Powerful mind control weapons. In slide number 40, we can see 2 very popular movies from the 1970s. The first is The Parallax View from 1974, and the second is 3 Days of the Condor from 1975. By now, it has become clear that the Jesuits are using big Hollywood heartthrob stars to achieve maximum impact on the biggest Cold War world audience possible. They are indoctrinating the world into the false communist capitalist dualism spell, and it is a spell, a very powerful one that all people still believe today. In slide number 41, we can see 2 very significant intelligence age movies from the 1980s. The first is Hopscotch from 1980, and the second is The Fourth Protocol from 1987. I'm sure that you can think of others. There were hundreds and hundreds of these similar themed movies made over the decades for the purpose of mind controlling people while they were being entertained. In slide number 42, we can see 2 very popular movies from the 1990s. These had a huge impact on the public. The first is Conspiracy Theory from 1997, and the second is Enemy of the State from 1998. The term conspiracy theory was made popular in order to debunk truth by the Jesuits. In fact, conspiracy theory is an oxymoron. Conspiracy is a fact and not an idea, not a theory. This movie was hugely instrumental in disarming the public to the great Roman conspiracy. People are still misusing this term today, dismissing the idea of conspiracy as lunacy. The movie Conspiracy Theory is a very powerful spell. Enemy of the State is also a very powerful spell and inverts the truth about who the enemy of the state really is. Ordinary people are portrayed as the enemy when in fact it is the Jesuits who are the enemy. These 2 movies created the perfect smokescreen for the Roman conspiracy going into the new millennium. Both productions have high numerology power, with one being 668 and the other being 666. In slide number 43, we can see two big movies from the 2000s. The first is Spy Game from 2001, and the second is The Recruit from 2003. All through these movies, the CIA is painted as both good and bad. This dualism has the effect of nullifying or disarming people's sense of morality. After many of these movies, people just see and want another story and even more sensational before. Truth and facts are absolutely hijacked by fictions. Powerful mind control, powerful psychology. In slide number 44, we can see two more movies from the 2000s. The first is The Bourne Identity from 2002, and the second is The Good Shepherd from 2006. The Jesuits are pumping up the mind control after 2000 with intelligence and spy movies. There are now 5 Bourne movies in the franchise simply because they were and are so effective at hypnotizing people. The Good Shepherd is a wicked movie that glorifies humanist behavior. An online encyclopedia summary states, and I quote, Wilson, played by Matt Damon, a senior CIA officer, discovers a mole in his department following the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. The film delves into Wilson's complex life, starting from his college years at Yale. Remember, Skull and Bones is Yale in 1939, his initiation into the Skull and Bones fraternity, and his recruitment into intelligence work during World War II. His personal life is marked by a strained marriage to Margaret Clover Russell, played by Angelina Jolie, and by a series of affairs that underscore the sacrifices and moral compromises invited by espionage work. The narrative unfolds through a mix of sequential events and flashbacks exploring the origins of the CIA, the Wilson character's involvement in key historical events, and the personal tolls typical in careers dedicated to secret intelligence. It is highly likely that this movie is in fact a biography of James Jesus Angleton, chief of the counterintelligence department of the CIA from 1954 to 1975. This is how the Jesuits legitimize wickedness in what they call service to God and country. Each of these intelligence movies is in fact an expression of the Jesuit motto, the end justifies the means, meaning it's okay to kill people if that's what you need to do to get what you want. In slide number 45, we can see two movies from the 2010s. The first is Red from 2010, and the second is Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy from 2011. This is a remake of the 7-part TV series of Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, aired on the BBC in 1979 between September and October. These remakes are powerful spells. Once again, there is a 32-year gap, and the Jesuits need to imprint the minds of 2 new generations with this movie spell. There is also a second Red movie titled Red 2, which was released in 2013. In these 2 movies, once again, we see the dualism of comedy and drama to cancel out truth and to disarm the public mind. In slide number 46, we can see 2 more big movies from the 2010s. The first is Salt from 2010, and the second is Zero Dark 30 from 2012. Murder, assassination, theft, betrayal are all glorified in these movies, which serve to desensitize people to both gratuitous violence, killing, and sex. The Jesuits really ramped up darker movie productions after the year 2000. In slide number 47, we can see 2 movies from the 2020s. The first is Tenet from 2020, and the second is The Secret Agent from 2025. Notice the repurposing of the title from Alfred Hitchcock's 1935 movie, Secret Agent. That isn't an accident. It is some kind of a strange homage to Hitchcock 90 years later. In slide number 48, we can see 2 movies that attempted to portray intelligence or assassin agencies as farce. The Jesuits always balanced the drama with the comedy in movies. This tends to disarm people and prevent them from asking serious questions about what they are watching or listening to. It is very clever psychological conditioning. This is how the Jesuit joint CIA and Tavistock operation of culturally engineering Americans into Luciferian concepts occurred. Thousands of movies over 9 decades, 90 years, mind-controlled 5 generations into a false reality. People absorb thousands and even tens of thousands of movies in a lifetime and become mindless, knowing something but suspecting nothing. In slide number 49, we can see a chart on the right-hand side dividing up the intelligence divisions contained within the 12 different branches of the American government and military. This doesn't cover the intelligence units in the Department of Homeland Security. This is just the USA. Multiply this by all countries. The money being spent on what is called intelligence operations is absolutely mind-boggling. We know that the aggregate U.S. intelligence budget, combining the National Intelligence Program and the Military Intelligence Program, was nearly $100 billion in fiscal year 2023. Imagine all 195 or 200 countries, big and small, and their intelligence budgets combined for 1 year. It would be enough to solve world poverty forever and make everyone a very rich person. On the left side of the slide, we can see that all these national intelligence agencies report to the Jesuit Control Center in Rome. The Jesuits know exactly what is happening to the 4 corners of the earth. They control all the major computer centers that gather and compile this data through agencies like the NSA. And you can see in that chart, in the center, you've got the Director of Central Intelligence, or DCI, and then you've got intelligence community staff, and you've got all the different segments of the intelligence community cut up like a pie around the core. You've got the CIA, the DIA, the NSA, you've got the Army Intelligence, Navy Intelligence, Air Force Intelligence, Marine Corps Intelligence, Offices for Collection of Specialized National Foreign Intelligence, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, Department of the Treasury is doing intelligence, Department of Energy is doing intelligence, the Department of State is doing intelligence. Wow. You think that you can get privacy, or that there is any privacy? If you think this, I don't know what to say. These people are spying on every aspect of your life and mine, 24/7. They know everything. And of course you can see that this is an intelligence octopus. And on the left-hand side, you can see that I've just listed a few of the intelligence agencies from the UK, Israel, India, Russia, China, Pakistan, Germany, France, Australia, and Canada, and Italy. But virtually every country has intelligence agencies that all report back to the Jesuits in Rome. The Jesuit Superior General hears all and knows all. All world intelligence agencies are reporting to him directly. American intel agencies do not control the show, but receive instructions from Rome. In slide number 50, we can see a map of the U.S. military presence across the flat Earth. Approximately 750 U.S. bases, I think there's more, in at least 80 countries with 173,000 troops in 159 countries. Think about that, people. What other nation in the world is doing that? None. Why is America the one doing this? Think about it. It's not because it controls the world and calls the shots. It's because it is being used to do this on behalf of the beast, on behalf of Vatican State. 750 U.S. bases or more. 80 countries. With 173,000 troops in 159 countries. You can see a large American military presence in Central America, Europe, and the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and Northeast Asia. What are all these bases and troops doing in these places? There is no world conflict and hasn't been for 80 years. And there wouldn't have been any for the last 2,000 years if it wasn't for Rome creating all these conflicts. So there is no aggressor nation, and yet the USA has troops on the ground everywhere and Navy ships in most of the world's oceans. Why? To keep peace? Between who if no one is fighting? It is clear that Rome stoops to conquer using American military resources. Rome understands that presence means threat of punishment to potential offenders. The U.S. military is a proxy Roman military that patrols the world, keeping populations under control for the beast. So, first I explained the Roman Catholic plan for conquering America, and this was not a secret. The Jesuits and other writers warned us in many books and publications. Then I explained how Rome stooped to conquer using culture by using its many secret agencies to coordinate programs. Rome stoops to conquer using Jesuit American intelligence, and finally Rome stoops to conquer using its million-man military force. It's no joke, people. And you can read in the slide there where all these bases are concentrated and where all this manpower and military hardware and firepower is concentrated. In slide number 51, we can see the U.S. base locations and numbers in the Middle East, just the Middle East. More than 15 countries and more than 60 bases with more than 8,000 military personnel. Once again, why? These are mostly Muslim countries. How does that work? I thought the Muslims hated the Christian West. Why are they allowing the Christian West to put military bases in their countries? Maybe the West isn't Christian to them. As you can see, they are all working together as one. The U.S. forces are in so many countries and operate there with near impunity. Why don't they all go home? There is no concern of America in these places, but maybe a greater power has a concern to control all these places. And well, that makes sense. America has no concern in any of these places, but maybe a power greater than America, controlling America, does have a concern for all these places. If you were trying to control the world, then you'd have to put military forces in all these bases worldwide in order to keep control. In slide number 52, we can see a map of the location and a number of U.S. Army bases in Japan and South Korea. There is a huge concentration of manpower and military hardware in this area of Northeast Asia. A total of 194 bases and more than 80,000 military personnel. What for? Why is the U.S. in these countries? It's not to keep the peace, so it must be in readiness to make war. Now, I lived in Korea for 10 years, and I saw firsthand the U.S. military presence there. It is huge and intimidating. It is even worse in Japan. 73 American military bases in South Korea, that tiny country. And 120 American military bases in Japan, which is bigger, but also not a really big country. Unbelievable concentration. And why? Now, you can call these what you want, but they are Roman occupying forces. Roman forces and technology are located strategically right across the flat Earth plain. They are ready to move at a moment's notice. Why? To fight the Russians or Chinese if they step out of line? That is what we are led to believe, but that is false, because all world leaders work together behind the scenes to achieve the Jesuit goals. In slide number 53, we can see two pictures of Robert Booth Nichols, a high-level CIA intelligence asset. It is agents like this who did the dirty work for the Jesuit-controlled U.S. government for many decades. This man was absolved of all wrong by high-level figures that covered his tracks. He is a real-life Jason Bourne or James Bond figure without any of their public profile. Now, people, I don't have time in this slide presentation to show hundreds and thousands of people like this man. I'm just using one man as an example of what the CIA has been doing all around the world since 1947. Very important to understand this, that this is how the Jesuits control nations. In slide number 54, we can listen to a short 4-minute 33 video extracted from a full-length 2-hour, 33 minutes, 55-second documentary from the Psych History Show YouTube channel titled The Shadowy CIA Operative at the Center of Danny Casalero's Octopus Case, Robert Booth Nichols. Please watch this video and I'll talk about it in a minute.
Question. Just to be clear, since you were 22 or 23 years old to the present date, your primary way of making money was to be employed by people who claim to be associated with government intelligence? Answer. That's correct. Question. You mentioned that in 2004 you had personal income of over $10 million. Did you file any tax return for that money? Answer. No. Question. Did you intentionally not file a tax return for that money? Answer. That's correct. Question. Did you pay taxes for that money? Answer. I pay taxes when I'm told to pay taxes, and I've been told not to do anything concerning anything of my involvements unless I'm instructed to. Question. Who told you not to pay? Answer. I've been told by various people. You want their names? Question. Yes. Answer. Francis Driscoll. Question. Just to be clear, what did he tell you about paying taxes? Answer. He told me I was involved in projects that were sensitive, of an extremely sensitive nature. He said he didn't want these projects, nor any of the electronics, engineering, or any part of them ever reaching the public, and I would never be bothered, and to proceed with my life and do not file. And I asked repeatedly, what should I do about this? You pay me, what do I do? You will never be bothered by the United States government. You keep what you do private and never let this reach the United States. Never let the things you're involved in reach the public. They are national security matters. That's what he told me. Question. By never be bothered, you mean never be asked to pay your personal income taxes? Answer. Never be bothered in any way by the United States government. You will never be bothered. Obviously, that's not the case, is it? That was an abridged excerpt from Robert Booth Nichols' 2008 deposition in the Sam Israel Ponzi scheme case. Nichols had just been caught stealing $10 million from the head of a Wall Street hedge fund, and yet here he was, sitting across the table from the Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, openly admitting that he'd neglected to pay taxes on millions of dollars in income over the preceding 4 decades. The government's official position in the case was that Robert Booth Nichols was just a con man who pretended to have intelligence connections so he could defraud people like the hedge fund owner Sam Israel out of millions of dollars. But the government's actions in the case told a different story. If Robert Booth Nichols was just a con man, why were his name, his depositions, and his supposedly fake intelligence connections placed under seal by the U.S. government? Why did they redact portions of the case materials before they were released to the public? And if they had Nichols under oath admitting he hadn't paid taxes for 4 decades, why didn't they criminally indict him for tax evasion? Or for stealing that $10 million? These questions, like many others in this case, point to one conclusion. Robert Booth Nichols was above the law, or outside of it. At every turn, Nichols seemed to be protected from above, with investigations into his actions quashed and his crimes ignored, with powerful actors always ready to intercede on his behalf behind the scenes. Nichols was at the very center of what Danny Casalero called the Octopus, a network of corrupt players from the intelligence world, organized crime, and the military-industrial complex, who had conspired with those at the very pinnacle of American political power to create a shadow government run entirely off the black budget, enriching its members in the process. According to Nichols' close friends, he was a contractor for the National Security Council. According to some senior military officers, he was a mythical figure in the world of black ops. According to Nichols himself, he was an intelligence subcontractor who'd worked for the CIA in over 30 countries from Central America to Southeast Asia. And according to the public-facing institutions of the American government, he was a money launderer and a con man with connections to the Gambino crime family and the Reagan White House. So who was telling the truth about Robert Booth Nichols? And what if they all were?
Now this documentary is about Robert Booth Nichols and the position he held as a virtually untouchable CIA Black Ops agent. Nichols is just one of many individuals who operated like this during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and still today. When their usefulness expired, they were simply disappeared or were found dead somewhere. It is these shadowy characters that moved around the world with impunity and carried out operations that extended Rome's power over the U.S. and other nations. Hundreds and possibly thousands of people like this enabled Rome to stoop and conquer the nations. It is these stories that many Hollywood movies are based on. Basically, it's the Jesuits glorifying their CIA, FBI, NSA agents. That's what they're doing. Now, on slide number 55, we can see a picture of the board of directors of a company called Wackenhut, which was a clandestine CIA operation, and it was above the law. And you can see there the board of directors. These people were untouchable. Roman Catholic, Masonic criminals who operated for the Jesuits in carrying out many, many operations around the world to control the nations. And there are many front groups like this. There's Wackenhut, there's Blackstone for money laundering, BlackRock, which is a private equity takeover, which is buying up real estate all over the United States and putting people out of housing. There's database technology like Palantir and Booz Allen Hamilton. There's military contractors like the Carlyle Group and Boston Dynamics. It goes on and on and on. And these clandestine companies. These people work in the shadows, and they work against the American people and the peoples of the world. They are not working for the people, they're working against the people. And they're criminals. They do everything illegally. Now, in slide number 56, we can listen to another short 5-minute video clip from the full-length documentary that I just quoted before, The Shadowy CIA Operative at the Center of Danny Casalero's Octopus Case, Robert Booth Nichols, which is from the Psych History Show YouTube channel. Now, this channel would not allow me to record the video, so I had to do screen recordings. Please watch the video.
Special ops experience and connections inside the White House, but the nature of his relationships wasn't clear. Nichols appeared to be two things at the same time: a former intelligence operative of some kind and a scammer peddling financial frauds. He was a spy and a con artist, or he was a spook who'd become a confidence man. During the Cold War, the lines between real intelligence operatives and frauds had blurred badly. The U.S. government had hired countless contractors to carry out its dirty work. Nichols had apparently been one of those men. In the meantime, Nichols had finally tracked down a new access point for the secret market through Postbank in Hamburg, Germany. Following Nichols' instructions, Israel flew to Hamburg, rendezvousing first with a man he was told was Pakistani intelligence, and given a bag containing two 9mm Beretta handguns, each equipped with a silencer. Nichols arrived the next morning in full Black Ops mode. Hundreds of operatives had descended on Hamburg to try to stop them from making a trade, Nichols told Israel, and urban combat was highly likely. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday morning, a short walk from the hotel. As Israel and Nichols cautiously made their way, the streets of Hamburg seemed eerily empty. Israel and Nichols were greeted by a German banker at the rear entrance to a nondescript brown brick building and ushered through the back door and into the lobby, completely deserted aside from two cleaners vacuuming. In an office, the banker explained that the transaction involved $2 billion in medium-term note prime bank debentures. The instruments were seasoned, he said, meaning they'd been traded already. To perform the final step of due diligence, Nichols borrowed a phone to call Phil Sievert. This is a pseudonym given by Guy Lawson, who Nichols claimed was a former Reagan official and a member of the Trilateral Commission, who would be responsible for the charitable component of the trade, a water treatment facility outside Karachi, Pakistan. Israel had talked to Sievert once before. It was a conversation that had made a strong impression on him. When we spoke, Sievert repeatedly told me he had what he called a stupid face, Israel recalls. He said he had the kind of face that was instantly forgettable. He could vanish into crowds. He said he was invisible because his face was so average, so stupid. Sievert assured the men that the Karachi initiative was in place. All that remained was for Israel to transfer $120 million to a non-depletion account in Postbank. For security purposes, Israel left the meeting ahead of Nichols, walking out the back door. Across the street, there was a man standing next to a telephone pole, Israel remembers. He was short, maybe 5'5", wearing a turban. He appeared to be Pakistani. One of his eyes drooped down. He started to walk toward me. As I got near him, he passed by, and he said, I swear to God, he said, "You have a really smart face." I stopped dead. I knew it was Sievert telling me he'd send people to watch us in Hamburg. So I threw the guy against the wall and asked what the f was going on. He wouldn't talk to me, not in English. All of a sudden, he could only speak Urdu. He kept saying the same thing. No, Sahib, no, Sahib. I let him go. I walked a couple more steps, and then I turned around to see if Nichols was behind me. As I turned, I saw the guy reach into his pocket and pull out a gun. Now Nichols was coming out of the building. The guy was taking aim to shoot Nichols. I pulled my Beretta out and I shot at the guy. I hit him in the left hip. Everything was moving in slow motion. The guy dropped the gun and fell to the ground. By that time, Nichols had pulled out his gun and he plugged the guy in the right shoulder. I walked over and shot him in the head, point blank, killing him. His head exploded all over the sidewalk. Blood and brains were everywhere. There were no cars, no witnesses, nobody was there. The silencers worked, so the shots didn't make any sound. No one had seen what happened. Bob grabbed me and took the gun from my hand, and we ran for our lives. When we got back to the hotel, I didn't know what to do. We went to Bob's room. I was crying. I was devastated. I threw up. Bob said I was the craziest person he'd ever met, but I'd saved his life. He told me he'd take care of it. Bob started to make calls. He got rid of the body. He had cleaners to take care of that kind of thing, to make a body disappear before the police were alerted. He got rid of the guns, too. He made it so there were no traces of the crime. So, for context, Israel was telling this story to the journalist Guy Lawson from his federal prison cell years later, after having been convicted of crimes related to the Bayou Ponzi scheme. But Lawson has always maintained that Sam Israel seems to genuinely believe that he actually killed a man that day in Hamburg, and Robert Booth Nichols successfully covered it up. There was no chance he faked it on me. It wasn't a Hollywood setup. The guy's left hip was bleeding profusely. His brains were sprayed all over the pavement. This was the real thing. I had nightmares about the scene for months. I would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. Bob told me to never mention it again, to not tell a soul. I haven't until now.
So you can see that this is this is the world of Roman criminal action. Spies. So the Romans, the Jesuits, are using people to move money around, to engage in all kinds of operations that give greater and greater power to Rome in every area. And this man, Nichols, Robert Booth Nichols, was one of these agents that was willing, one of these men that was willing to sell his soul for fame, fortune, money, whatever, and carry out these despicable deeds involving murder, every wicked thing. And these people are criminals, high-level criminals, and they can't be touched by any government. They are above the law. And that's how the Jesuits have stooped to conquer America and the world, using agents like this. Now, on slide number 57, we can listen to another shorter, slightly longer, 10-minute, 26 video extract from the full-length documentary that I mentioned before. Now, it's important to watch this because you can't get an understanding of what these people are all about until you hear these stories. And I have reduced 2 hours 33 down to 4 shorter video clips where you can get an idea of what the Jesuits are involved in and what has been going on all around the world. So have a listen to this, and I'll see you afterwards.
Robert Booth Nichols negotiated an agreement with the federal government where he was to surrender $5 million in cash by February of 2009. That month, Nichols was in Switzerland with another Wall Street banker with whom he was supposedly working on a water treatment project to be built in Alabama. But according to the Swiss government, within a few weeks of the date his restitution was due, Nichols died of a heart attack in his 5-star hotel room. Some people who are close to him contend that he's still alive, said Sherry Seymour, the author of The Last Circle. They say he's living in Liechtenstein, or Cambodia, or Bali. I haven't drawn any conclusions, one way or the other. Sam Israel had no doubt that Nichols was still alive, probably in Vietnam. He had bank accounts all over the world, countless fake identities. It'd be impossible to catch him. Bob isn't dead, Israel told Guy Lawson. He's very much alive and well, somewhere. Bob's the real thing, not a con man like the government says. There's too much smoke for there to be no fire. He's literally the man who doesn't exist. He told me that many times. He left no footprint. Bob was seriously connected to American intelligence agencies and the people who really run the world, to the octopus. How else can it be explained that he was never charged with a crime? If you believe in the shadow government, as I do, there have to be people like Bob alive in the world. Think about Iran-Contra. Think about Iraq and the supposed weapons of mass destruction and how the public swallows all the bullshit fed to them by the government. Like the death of Osama bin Laden. Bob told me about the Corps Command and the Pakistani generals and how they all knew exactly where bin Laden was hiding. That was years before bin Laden was killed, inside a compound right next to a major Pakistani military base. The truth was just like Bob described it. I sometimes think Bob was the only real person I met. It's worth pointing out that the description of the secret market Nichols was trying to shepherd Sam Israel into is virtually identical to something called a prime bank investment scam. According to Guy Lawson, by the time Sam Israel met Robert Booth Nichols in 2004, more than $10 billion had been lost to high-yield fraud, according to the best estimates. Countless billions have been lost since, despite warnings from the SEC, the IMF, the World Bank, and the International Chamber of Commerce. There were endless variations to the scams, but the themes were common. All claimed securities were issued at deep discounts for the lucky few able to make the trades. Medium-term notes, zero bonds, debentures, all the structures promised to double or triple the investor's money in a matter of weeks. The best marketing tool was the corrupt institutions propping up American capitalism, the bankruptcy of the Federal Reserve, the duplicity of Wall Street, the machinations of the federal government as it created a new world order. But then again, if the whole thing was fake, then what was the secret trading floor at Barclays Bank in the London financial district? Had Nichols set that up too? Lawson believes that the events really happened as Israel describes, but says that Barclays was actually in the process of moving offices at that time, and suggests Nichols or Hardwick must have bribed a security guard to play along with the con. But then who were the other traders Israel was talking to that night, and how did Hardwick get access to Barclays' computers? And besides, the bulk of the evidence seems to suggest that Robert Booth Nichols actually believed in the existence of the secret market. In fact, After Nichols deposited the $10 million Israel paid him into a London bank account, Nichols' account was frozen, and he was interviewed by a veteran detective from the serious fraud office there named Michael Manley, under suspicion of fraud and money laundering. But the detective concluded that, if anything, Nichols had been a victim of fraud, not a perpetrator. It was obvious to Detective Inspector Manley that Nichols believed in the existence of the secret shadow market. There was no question that Nichols had been conned as well, said Manley. Fraudsters often believe in their own fantasy world. Nichols fit the profile of many of our victims, and so did Sam Israel. Greed was the motivation. Neither of them was using his own money in the first place. All they were thinking about was the huge returns. There was no reason to believe that Nichols was running the prime bank scam. And even though the story of the secret Federal Reserve notes from Chiang Kai-shek's China is shrouded in myth, there are legitimate historical reasons to believe that such bonds did exist. The U.S. government insisted that the Federal Reserve bonds they found in Sam Israel's safe deposit box were fraudulent, but they refused to return the bonds to his possession, or even release photos showing what the bonds looked like. Whoever made them somehow got access to the exact kind of paper the Fed was using at that time, and perfectly forged the signature of then Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau. On the other hand, the box that the bonds were stored in also contained obviously fake legal documents written in broken English, and forgery of these bonds is so common that the U.S. Treasury Department has a section on their website warning about fakes. In fact, just a few years after Sam Israel was arrested, 2 Japanese men were caught trying to enter Switzerland with $130 billion worth of fake treasury bonds that were very similar to the ones described in Israel's charging documents. The fakes are so common, the Treasury even has a name for them, Morgenthau's, after Henry Morgenthau, whose forged signature usually appears on the fake notes. But even if we suppose that the bonds Israel purchased were genuine, would the federal government really honor what were essentially wartime IOUs from 70 years earlier? Robert Booth Nichols seemed to believe that the U.S. government would only pay out on the bonds if the beneficiary was a member of the old money aristocracy of the American ruling class, which was why he tried to enlist George W. Bush's cousin, John Ellis, in the scheme. If anything, Robert Booth Nichols was acting as if he really believed in the conspiracy theories he was telling Sam Israel, where the power elite received privileges from the American government that were kept secret from everyone else. What does it mean that Robert Booth Nichols, the CIA super spy, genuinely believed in these unproven and likely false conspiracy theories? Had the years he spent working for Reagan's National Security Council predisposed him to believing the darkest, most cynical theories about the American government? Or was he just a credulous, unsophisticated idiot who BS'd his way into the halls of power? Nichols was certainly a liar, seeding his autobiography with fantastical tales of MK Ultra, the Phoenix program, and 200-man hit teams. But he was also getting tipped off to federal investigations from inside the DOJ and meeting with Contra Army officials to conduct the most highly classified covert diplomacy of the Reagan era. The federal prosecutors who investigated Nichols discovered that he'd at least offered to become an informant for the DOJ, and they believed some of the departments may have taken him up on it, despite their denials. Guy Lawson says that Nichols fell out with the national security state in the wake of Iran-Contra, but the FBI suspected that Nichols' association with MCA, which occurred after the Iran-Contra scandal broke, may have been an intelligence front, where Nichols was using MCA branch offices around the world as cover, suggesting that his relationship with the CIA may have lasted longer than Lawson realized. And Nichols' association with organized crime fits a long, established pattern of American intelligence agencies coordinating with the mafia to achieve shared objectives. The CIA famously recruited American mobsters like Sam Giancana and Johnny Rosselli for attempts on Fidel Castro's life, in exchange for promises to return the mob's casinos and other property in a post-Castro Cuba. And the infamous French Connection heroin trafficking scheme only existed because the CIA backed mafia takeovers of European shipping ports after the Second World War to sabotage the left-wing dockworker unions. Sherry Seymour characterized Nichols as the interface between the worlds of American intelligence agencies and organized crime, but with Nichols, the line between these two worlds was only slightly blurrier than normal. According to Nichols, he learned how to launder money in Switzerland as a means of financing CIA black ops, and he appears to have just taken those same skills to the private sector. Even the FBI had to acknowledge that Nichols' earliest associations with organized crime were through Harold Okamoto, a man who seemed to have long-standing ties to a deputy director of the CIA, Frank Carlucci. On the other hand, Guy Lawson's interpretation, where Nichols was just a criminal and a con man, skillfully constructing false realities for his victims like Sam Israel, doesn't explain his connections at the very top of the American power structure, in intelligence, the military, civilian government, and the military-industrial complex. Lawson's version of events, where Nichols was setting up fake stock trading rooms and fake shootouts just to string Sam Israel along, sounds plausible until you realize it would have required Nichols to rent entire buildings and enlist scores of bit players and background extras to participate in the fake world he created. This is not to say that the secret market, as Nichols described it, was real, but Lawson glosses over the hardest questions of what exactly was going on between Nichols and Sam Israel, and a straightforward con game would have been orders of magnitude more complex and expensive to pull off than Lawson lets on. And it seems virtually certain that Nichols had some kind of special legal protection from the US government, which lasted for decades. How else to explain the quashed MCA investigations, the sealed court records in the Sam Israel case, and the bragging about tax evasion to a federal prosecutor's face? This was more than just some higher-up in the DOJ calling in a favor. Robert Booth Nichols appears to have been a member of some kind of special legal category which doesn't officially exist, where certain laws just don't apply. The stuff about Nichols belonging to a group called the Chosen Ones, who all wore matching skull and crossbones rings, sounds a little fantastical, but Nichols seemed to enjoy playing up this man of mystery angle about himself, even at the expense of the truth. Hence the associations with Bob Lazar and Ted Gunderson, the secret bond market, and the fake Zapruder film. The Octopus case is about many things, but the branch represented by Robert Booth Nichols is really the story of the privatization of the American intelligence apparatus and the impunity and lawlessness with which the power elite operate, both domestically and internationally.
Okay, so you can see that there's another world out there that is shown to us in Hollywood movies as fiction, as entertainment, action thrillers about spies and agents and whatever. But there is also that world that really does exist, and that the Jesuits trained people to operate in that world, to do nefarious things. And it's all under the guise of intelligence, national security. It's all lies. And following it, understanding it, very, very difficult, because most of it is top secret. But here we get a sense of this one man, Robert Booth Nichols, and what he was involved in. This guy may have been, he could have become anything that anybody asked him to be, go anywhere he wanted to go. He had access to money. He had access to permission to do anything they asked him to do, include kill people. So this is another world, but this is how Rome has stooped to conquer, using American and foreign militaries and intelligence agencies. In slide number 58, we can listen to a final short 2-minute 49 video extract from that full-length documentary. And if you want to watch the whole documentary, I would go to the Psych History Show YouTube channel and look for that documentary, The Shadowy CIA Operative at the Center of Danny Casalero's Octopus Case. Watch it for yourself. It's very, very fascinating. I just took a few extracts out because it fits in exactly with Rome stooping to conquer and how they do that. Please watch this video.
So the Octopus case, as defined by the journalist Danny Casalero, is notorious for its complexity and the seemingly infinite number of rabbit holes that branch off from it. so including an introduction to the octopus case itself would make this video overlong and needlessly complicated. If you're not familiar with the octopus case, or you need a refresher, I would strongly suggest watching the Netflix series American Conspiracy, or at least the Unsolved Mysteries segment on the case, before watching this video, because this video contains references to figures and events from the case, which won't make sense without that context. I'll leave links to both in the description. What the octopus represents, however, is really the story of the American national security state in the second half of the 20th century. The Church and Pike committees of the 1970s had revealed the outrageous abuses committed by the CIA in the preceding decades, from Operation Mockingbird and Chaos to MKUltra and the Family Jewels. The ensuing scandals produced two important effects. First, much of the agency's old guard was pushed out in a series of CIA house cleanings in the wake of the scandals. But these men didn't just disappear or retire. Instead, they created a whole new class of highly trained gray market operators, skilled in the arts of money laundering, gun running, and special operations, with lists of highly placed contacts in government and industry all over the world. After being pushed out of the agency, these men needed somewhere to ply their trade. And that's where the second part comes in. Rather than being CIA employees, bound by CIA budgets and regulations, these gray market operators set up subcontracting firms to take on the jobs the American intelligence apparatus considered too dirty for its own hands. The new setup was a win-win. The CIA got to channel some of its more nefarious projects through black budget front companies and private subcontractors, providing a new layer of plausible deniability for the agency. And the disgraced good old boys club of the Operation Chaos era CIA got to maintain their power and influence while becoming filthy rich in the process. For all its complexity, the octopus case is, at its core, the story of this secret partnership between the American government and the new, clandestine arm of the military-industrial complex it was building in the shadows. Ultimately, Robert Booth Nichols was just one small part of this transformation, but his case represents in microcosm the corruption and lawlessness which the octopus came to embody.
So, this shadow government that was being built is just not true. That's just a nonsense. There was no shadow government being built. The shadow government is the Jesuits who control the American government and all its agencies. It's as simple as that. The CIA is not creating shadow governments. It helps to pull down governments or install new governments that the beast wants in power. And we've watched this all through the 20th century, where leaders were put into power, then assassinated, new leaders put into power. This is an endless process of power shifting from one hand to another in different countries and regions all around the world. And the CIA has had a very big part to play in the latter half of the 20th century and in the first part of the 21st century in this process of putting the power into the hands of people that are allied with the beast, that are controlled by Rome. Now on slide number 59, we can see two pictures of art illustrations of Donald Trump by the same artist, Victor Juhas. The one on the left is from Rolling Stone magazine, dated April 6, 2017. The one on the right is dated September 17, 2017, and I think is also from Rolling Stone magazine. I could not find the name of the magazine for that picture on the right. Now, many critics were already labeling Trump as mad in his first presidential term 8 years ago. They were mostly all mistaken. Trump is far from mad, but his method is madness. He is an agent of chaos with a well-detailed plan. And this is how Rome can stoop to conquer when they control the government of a nation, and they do control them all. Trump is using the U.S. military and intelligence apparatus to full effect to conquer the American people and all those who resist Rome. Don't forget that Trump organized 2 fake near assassination attempts on his life and fooled the masses, fooled everybody. He turned himself into a hero using very dramatic shooting psyops like the Charlie Kirk psyop. This person is no fool, but he is both a clown and a destroyer. He plays both roles. He's a clown, an entertainer, and he's a destroyer at the same time. We see this caricature of Trump the Tornado in the picture on the left. Comedic, humorous, but terrifying at the same time when we understand the reality of who this man is and who controls him. By controlling American politicians and presidents, Rome can beat up the nations with American military and intelligence forces. In 2025 alone, Rome interfered with 7 nations militarily. U.S. forces were and still are active in Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Nigeria, and Venezuela, executing the Pope's wishes. Since 1978, with the landing of U.S. Marines in Puerto Rico, 1798, U.S. Marines landed in Puerto Rico to oppose French forces, and to the present day, the U.S. military has been the Pope's strong arm, forcing people at gunpoint into compliance. So the U.S. military has been the Pope's strong arm, forcing people at gunpoint, under pressure, into compliance. And there have been hundreds of military actions also involving the FBI, OSS, and CIA in the 20th century. The list is very extensive, 57 countries worldwide, but it is too long to show here. Please go to the online encyclopedia and put in U.S. military actions worldwide since 1776, and you'll see the truth for yourself. The USA has been the beast enforcer for more than 200 years. Now, the picture on the right in the slide is very insightful. Trump is known to be a serial intersex, pedophile, and rapist. The idea of Trump in the hood assaulting Lady Liberty sexually is very explicit. Now, we know that Lady Liberty is in reality the goddess, so essentially we have Trump the destroyer assaulting the goddess, but made to look like he is assaulting freedoms. In fact, he is doing both. Now, why is Trump doing this? The answer is found once again in the excerpt taken from the Jesuit Fourth Bloody Oath quoted in slide number 8, and I repeat, I do further promise and declare that notwithstanding I am dispensed with, number 1, to assume any religion heretical for the propagation of the Mother Church's interest, in other words, to become a double agent. Number 2, to take sides with the combatants, to go to the other side. And number 3, to act secretly with your brother Jesuit who might be engaged on the other side, but openly opposed to that with which you might be connected. Double agents. See, this is talking about double agents. Working for the Roman Catholic Church while pretending to be somebody else. And number 4, only that the church might be the gainer in the end. You see, that the Roman Catholic cult might win in the end. They have been telling us all our lives. Rome has been stooping to conquer for 1800 years, and soon it will stoop no longer because the Roman conquest of the world is almost done. And we are coming to the end of it. Now, in slide number 60, we can reach 7 basic conclusions based on the facts in this presentation. The Roman Catholic cult had its eye on the New World since the 1500s. It conquered the south through the Spanish and Portuguese kings and queens. The north was conquered by the French and English kings and queens. When the first 200 Roman Catholics set foot upon the shores of Maryland in 1934, it was all downhill from there. The reason? All Roman Catholics have their allegiance to the Pope first and not to their country or government. So every Catholic is a soldier of Rome. Roman Catholics are idolaters, and so any society that they live in will ultimately be led into idolatry. What is happening to America was inevitable once the Roman Catholic lobby controlled all the governing agencies. This was already a reality that Boyd Barrett, the Jesuit, boasted about in his book, Rome Stoops to Conquer, 90 years ago. Now, reading in the slide, number 1, the book Rome Stoops to Conquer, written by a Jesuit, tells us plainly that Rome was already in control of America in 1935. Number 2, the Jesuit Fourth Oath of Induction tells us clearly what Rome's attitude is to its enemies. The order is to kill them, and that is what the Jesuits have been doing all along. Number 3, Roman Catholic intelligence has always been at the forefront of its world operations, and today is no exception, as high technology is used by the Jesuits to track, monitor, and record all communications worldwide. Number 4, American intelligence agencies like the FBI, CIA, NSA, etc. were created by Roman Catholics for the Roman Catholic cult and not the American people. Number 5, Roman intelligence agencies and military departments work together in every country to make war against the American people and the peoples of the world. Number 6, Rome owns and controls world music and movie production and radio, television, broadcasting, and internet services to monitor, track, and control every living soul. Finally, number 7, Rome stooped to conquer America and succeeded by taking control of politics, military, intelligence, banking, and cultures. These agencies all work together under the Jesuits, under the control of the Jesuits. Okay, so once again, I hope that the slide lineup has helped you to see the truth about our current world reality. It is no trouble for me to keep reminding everyone about this and where we are at currently and where we are heading. It is clear that the American Jesuit-controlled intelligence agency network is absolutely nefarious in its intentions, both in the USA, Canada, Mexico, and worldwide. The Roman CIA intelligence complex and its programs have spawned a wave of mind-controlled serial killers. That same complex has, in its drug trafficking program, has flooded the world with addiction, poverty, and that's better. Misery. Addiction, poverty, and misery through drug programs. And the Roman CIA has targeted an army of individuals that have gone out and created chaos in society. The Roman CIA is behind the communitarianism, social engineering. The Roman CIA and its Hollywood filmmaking and music-making culture and propaganda industries have polluted the minds and hearts of the nations with Luciferian values and sinful desires. The Roman CIA has spawned a culture of MK Ultra mind-controlled politicians, entertainers, and military personnel that have saturated the world with the effect of their evil activities. Intelligence is all about collecting information on different people groups in order to find out their weaknesses and exploit them. This is called infiltration and subversion, and this is what the Roman Catholic hierarchy have been doing since the beginning of its rise to power in 314 AD. Now, Rome stooped to conquer the world by conquering America first in this end time. It was an inside job from start to finish. The foundation of America as a society was compromised right from the beginning when Roman Catholics brought their wicked pagan religion with them to Maryland in the USA. They were the Trojan horse. The first Roman Catholics to set foot in the United States were the Trojan horse. And the city is now being destroyed by the inhabitants of that Trojan horse. Now, 3 videos that will help you to get a bigger picture of Rome's machinations for world power are video number 81, titled James Bond 007, Jesuit License to Kill Movie PSYOP. Video number 319, titled Spooks. And video number 326, titled Parasitism. I urge you to watch all 3 of those videos to get a better grasp on Jesuit intelligence agencies and how they operate worldwide, centered primarily out of Washington and London. Now, the purpose of the CIA was to protect U.S. national security. We know that's not true. But the purpose of it is to implement Jesuit Vatican programs worldwide. Now, just in case you didn't know, Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia, is a Roman intelligence program. So many of the information articles you'll find in there are slanted towards making Rome look good. So they shift history, they shift the facts and details about people, events in history. So be careful using Wikipedia. I use it because a lot of the facts are true. But when it comes to covering up something that Rome has done, they do it very, very well by shifting the facts and putting the blame on other sources. So be careful using online encyclopedias. Wikipedia is a Jesuit CIA program. The World Factbook is a Roman intelligence program. The World Factbook, the CIA World Factbook. Be careful using this. Google is a Roman intelligence program. In fact, I would say that all internet browsers, some are better than others, all internet browsers are, if they're not already, will be controlled by AI. Google definitely is. And I think many of the others also will soon be controlled by AI. So finding information the way it was 15 years ago, forget it. That's all gone. Our alternatives, our choices are being limited, and deliberately so. The Tavistock Institute for Social Engineering works hand in glove with all Roman intelligence agencies worldwide to mind control every soul into obedience to the beast, as do all these agencies. Please be aware of this. Don't be fooled by what's going on online, particularly with the AI, which is now everywhere and controls the internet, basically. It controls the internet. So be mindful of this going forward and when you use the internet. Now, please consider carefully where you are at spiritually right now. It's my warning, as I do in every video, and do what God is telling you to do. Don't wait. Once again, I'll speak to the tares that are watching this video, tare Christians. I urge you to reconsider and to listen to the truth of the Spirit-filled gospel and to discard your false gospel, because you're not saved and you're on your way to the lake of fire. That's my warning to you here. If you're a tare and you've accepted Billy Graham's false gospel of accepting Jesus, you are on your way to the lake of fire because you have not done what God has told you to do. So don't wait. Get it done. If there's ongoing sin in your life, in any way, get rid of it. It's up to you to stop the sin. God is not going to stop it for you. You and I control ourselves. We stop the sin. We live holy because we choose to. And if you're doing something wrong, you know you're doing it wrong. I don't need to tell you. Nobody needs to tell you. You know your conscience condemns you. Your conscience is telling you what is wrong. Stop sinning and get right with God. Get rid of all false teachings, all heresies, the false gospel. Billy Graham's false gospel of accepting Jesus is a false gospel. Everybody in the world believes it today, but it is false, and they are on the wide road to hell. And if you have embraced this, I'm warning you that your time is short to change your mind, repent, and accept the full Spirit-filled gospel according to John chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, and Acts chapter 2, verses 38 to 40. If you haven't done what God has told you to do, then you have followed a false teaching, and your eternal destination, your eternal destiny is in peril. I can't say this enough because there's so many people who believe they're saved when they're not. And this last video that I did and the reaction to it really brought the worst out in a whole bunch of people that I suspected were there but didn't know. Now, no one will get into the kingdom, as I've said many times, without the indwelling Spirit of God, with the evidence of speaking in tongues, or the wedding garments, and those garments are the good deeds of the saints. If you haven't yet been baptized in the Holy Spirit with the biblical evidence of speaking in a new tongue, then I urge you to keep seeking God day and night with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength to receive that, because Jesus said you have to ask for it. Yes, Jesus said you have to ask for the Holy Spirit. This is not something that happens when you make a confession. You don't get baptized or filled with the Holy Ghost when you make a confession to follow Jesus or when you say sorry. You must ask and keep on asking until you receive the Holy Ghost. And you'll know that you have received him when you have the evidence of speaking in a new tongue. It'll be absolutely evident to you of what has happened to you, just like it happened to me 45 years ago. Nothing has changed, people. God hasn't changed. His word hasn't changed. The way he does things has not changed. And what we have to do to get saved has not changed. Please listen carefully. Seek God to get filled with his Spirit. Get baptized in water if you haven't done that already. These are all requirements for salvation. So, there can be no mistake that the Holy Spirit is given to those who ask him, who ask God, and keep on asking until they get it, and that it will be absolutely clear when this happens. So for those of you who are seeking the Holy Spirit, for those of you who are repenting, my encouragement to you is do not give up. Keep asking and seeking God diligently day and night, and he will answer you. He's promised to do that. When you meet that certain place, come into that certain place of faith with God, he will answer you, just like he did with me and millions of other people. Now, we had better follow God's pattern and do things his way, or we will perish. The warning is going out, and I've been warning for years now. People are not listening because they think they're saved, and they're not. They were lied to. They listened to the doctrines of men, and they were lied to. And I will keep on warning as long as there's breath in my body, in the hope that a few more will hear and turn and be saved. And like I said before, there aren't many gospels or many kinds of Christians, only one. And if you have not had the same experience as me, you are not a Christian yet. Simple as that, because the Bible says so. And so there's only one type of Christian, and they have the same thing in common. They are truly born again by the water and the Spirit, and they have the Holy Spirit indwelling with the only biblical evidence that we read about in the book of Acts. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and I pray that God will continue to open your eyes as you search for the truth on all things regarding the will of God for your life. I'll put all pertinent links in the description box below. Please go to darknessisfalling.com. Use all the facilities there while they're available, while they remain there. You can download all my videos from darknessisfalling.com. If anything happens to any of my video channels and you can't access my videos on any of my video channels, please go to darknessisfalling.com. All my videos are there. You can watch them or download them, record them from darknessisfalling.com. I keep telling people that this simply because it is going to happen one day. Where Rumble will disappear, my channel will disappear, BitChute, Brighteon, they may all disappear. And the last place that you may find the videos that I'm doing will be on Darkness is Falling which is my website. So please go there, use those facilities while they remain available. And please share this information with others as you're able, people that are unjabbed, untested, and unsaved. That's your target group. Unjabbed, untested, unsaved. That means you have to ask people, have you been jabbed? Have you been tested? You have to ask them. We're living in that time, people, where you need to identify who people are if they're strangers, and you need to know where they're coming from. You need to know whether they've been marked or not. Because if they are marked, you're wasting your time talking to them. They will not listen. That is the experience that hundreds of people have shared with me all over the world. They won't listen. They don't listen. They don't want to know. So identify first before you waste your time with people who are already marked with testing and injecting of the COVID injections. As I've been saying in previous videos, I may suddenly be unable to post any more videos, and who knows, this could be my last message. I always take it that it will be my last message. All Truth Online is going to go, folks, so get ready for it. We're living in that time now where everything gets far more dangerous and far more uncertain. Please adjust your lifestyle accordingly. Stay in prayer. Keep food and water in your house to last for 2 or 3 weeks, so that just in case systems go down and you can't access anything, you at least can eat and drink and survive for 2 or 3 weeks, at least, minimum. After that, we're in God's hands. I pray that God will keep and bless you all in these perilous days that lie directly ahead of us. And it is getting more perilous with Donald Trump, the destroyer. So make sure that you have your house in order and that you are doing everything that God has asked you to do. I hope that I can see you in another video message, and I pray God's blessing over your life. Until then, God bless you, and see you soon.